I knew there was an issue. I called Jim at 6 o'clock. I said,
good evening, everyone. Let's get underway.
thank you very much.
Yeah, but it took enough gun.
Good, you get me on, correct. All right, settings, right?
I'd like to welcome everybody to the annual spring forum.
Where do you see it?
Thank you.
Oh,
Can I have your attention, please, so we can get underway? We've decided this year to change the format of the spring forum. After reviewing the charter says that the purpose of the spring forum is to provide an opportunity for the public to bring their concerns, comments, and questions on budgeting and other spending matters to the appointed town officials and appointed officers. In the past, we've had the department heads make a presentation, and this year we're going to try to shift it to have the citizens have their input, to have more direct citizen input. You'll see that we have a little agenda that, if you hadn't received it when you came in, they're on the table there of how the format's going to run. The majority of it is going to be asking you people for your input. One of the statements that's on that sheet is that was in the paper this week, a quote, is that the budgeting process is simple, but it's not easy. And we know that the budgeting process, whether it's in our home or in the town budget, requires us to see how much we're spending, what the outgo is, and what the income is. The town budget has some very similarities to the home budget. It has to weigh the same things. If the expenses and the income do not balance, priorities need to be established. At the municipal level, this requires countless hours of deliberation and preparation. And that preparation and deliberation is underway right now. And we'll hear a little bit more about it as the evening goes on. To achieve a balanced budget, if the expenses exceed the income, then we have to do one of two things. We either need to adjust the expenses or adjust the income. And when we adjust the expenses, obviously we look for priorities. What's more important to us to do of all of the things that we'd like to do. As we are elected and appointed officials prepare the budget, we're asking you citizens to express your goals and priorities and offer budgeting suggestions and solutions as to how we can best achieve the goals and the visions that you as citizens have for the town of Winthrop. We need to let you know, we need to have you let us know what your thoughts are on adjusting spending or increasing income. It's only one of two solutions to it. So we're asking you tonight for your input on that. And before I turn the meeting over to Mr. McKenna to give you some guidelines, I'm going to ask everybody to please stand and pledge allegiance. Councilor Del Vento, would you lead? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. McKenna.
Thank you, Council President and members of the Town Council and everyone here tonight. Thank you for taking yet another night out of your lives to participate in this important dialogue. As the Council President has outlined, you know, the hope tonight is to hear from you more than us. You hear from us enough. It's about time, you know, we really had opportunity to hear what's on your mind and, you know, how we frame our priorities really depends on the feedback that we get from you and how you vision your community. What the condition of it is from a financial perspective, what the condition of it is in terms of improving, you know, what we do as a municipality in terms of delivering services, and what we're doing outside, what you can visualize, what you can see, where you meet, where you drive, you know, where you meet your government on a day-to-day basis. That's one of the things I've always enjoyed with you know, being in this profession, is that this is where people really have a relationship with their government. because they deal with it every day, whether it's avoiding a pothole or sending their child to school or having to seek out the services of any one of our human service departments on a daily basis. You know, this is how you, meet your government, and it's important that you have a voice in what it does for you. That said, I receive every year, as part of the charter, back in November, we begin the process of budget development. That's quite some time ago, but what it calls for is that the council develop some policy objectives, some goals and objectives that they agree upon as a statement of interest, and then transfer that to me, in which I then fold that in, or attempt to mix that into the ingredients of how we bake this budget and present it to the council for its final consideration and hopefully ratification. That's a long process. It involves planning, visioning what we need to do, assessing where our weaknesses are, giving a good, healthy, critical account of ourselves, and seeing what we can do better and how we should be doing it better, how we can do it more effectively, efficiently, and within the limits of the resources that we know are available to do that. I have generally three guidance points that I have discussed this year with the department managers, and that's really to look for ways to stabilize anything that needs to be stabilized where necessary, to build on the sustainability of what we've started, of how we can continue to fund and grow our services, and then three, to improve wherever possible. Because it's not enough to be satisfied with the status quo. We know that much. We know that status quo is never enough, and that change is actually a healthy thing if it's done correctly and with the proper inputs. We should always look for ways to improve. And so that's been the goal and the guidance that I've been giving to my department managers over the past few months as they went ahead and took the earliest sort of crack at estimating what it costs to do the things that they're asked to do every day. Now, the school department has a whole schedule of how it must propose a budget and how that budget gets presented to the council, which is somewhat different than the other departments in town, and that process is well underway. And we understand that there will be a public hearing on the 19th for that budget. That's been advertised. And that we've already had multiple meetings with the development of a capital budget. For some time, the town had some fiscal challenges such that it really didn't have the resources to give a good effort on capital planning. But I'm glad to report that over the past 2 years, that's been changed, such that we are very much, putting together a capital plan and trying to adhere to that plan. Because we find that even if we have limited resources, if we impose on ourselves a certain fiscal discipline of continual investment, we believe that the tortoise wins the race ultimately. That however modest your investment is, as long as it continues to be a dedicated investment and a smart investment, then we continue that investment, that investment will pay off. And I think some folks would agree that when you see the ways that we've been able to address some of our physical plant challenges over the past few years, the parks, how they've improved over the past few years, the roads, the sidewalks, a number of other fiscal disciplines that we've maintained within the management of our operations, that's starting to bear fruit. That we got a good and healthy report card from our auditing firm this year, that we're excited for the first time in quite a while to go out on a bond issue, because we hope that we'll get a better rating on our bond issue, our bond rating this year. So, we're encouraged. We had good results this past year on free cash. We had good results in terms of some of the disciplines that our CFO, Tim Gordon, and his staff have adhered to, which give us much more ability to be responsive and not to be reactionary to whatever the crisis du jour may be, but to plan, and to plan for making prudent investments. And I think some of that perhaps has given the town and the residents and the taxpayers some confidence, some renewed confidence in this community and how we're going about our business, and renewed confidence in this council, where with their policy guidance, they've encouraged these fiscal stewardship principles to be adhered to. The simple truth is Winthrop is a 2% community. I've said this before, and I have to continue to say it and remind myself and others. We live in a very limited world of revenue development over each and every fiscal year. Our revenues only increase by 2, maybe a little bit more than 2% annually. And so we have to learn how to live within those means and to guide ourselves accordingly. And it always means that there will be more to do than what we have to do it with. And that will always be the challenge, looking out the front window for this community. So we have to be very prudent and fair and smart about how we invest each and every new tax dollar that comes into this community. And yet we're faced with other fiscal costs that drive hotter than 2%. Every year, we have labor expenses, retirement and pension expenses, health insurance, something called OPEB you'll hear about, which is outside of the usual costs of labor. It's the post-employment benefits that come with retirement or early retirements. Our utilities always run hotter than 2%, especially this year. And then you probably have felt this in your own homes. The cost of energy went up this year. It went up for you, it went up for us. And that's going to be a challenge. As all of you are well aware, it snowed a lot this year. And that's going to be a snow and ice deficit of the magnitude, we believe, in the neighborhood of $150,000 that we need to satisfy as we plan for FY15, because that's a deficit rolling into next year that must be satisfied. And we have other costs, other insurance costs, other legal expenses of the town that continue to be what they are, and we have to make room and accommodate them before we can use any discretionary funds. So that said, that's a lot to take in. But what we try to do then is to say, well, what are the things that we need to continue to do as we're on this marathon as the tortoise in the race and not the hare? We want to continue our sidewalk improvements. Those are paying dividends to this community. We've dedicated $35,000 each year for the past 3 years to improve our sidewalks. And I'm happy to report, with Steve Calla's guidance and effort, the DPW, has really done a heck of a job there in getting a lot of really the worst of our sidewalks addressed. And now we're really sort of taking a good crack at the list of open sores that you know are out there. And we have a lot more to do. But if we dedicate a small portion of each budget to it, we will make progress in addressing our sidewalk improvement challenges. Our Chapter 90 funds, we only get a certain allowance every year for Chapter 90, and we have to make tough choices about what road are we going to do this year. Everyone has their own project in mind. The fact of the matter is our DPW committee, with Steve Calla's guidance, has to make a difficult choice on where to dedicate those resources. And so we are focusing this year on Plummer Ave, Woodside Ave, and a project that really needs to be done, which is to redirect a water line from open air. It actually runs along the beach line, and we need to put it underground again to put it away from being exposed to the elements. And then we're going to address challenges up on Prospect Avenue. So up on the hill, we've been delayed in really addressing a full project up there, and we want to get busy and attack that this year. We have, thankfully, with the passage of the recent debt exclusion vote for the schools to go to a merged middle high school project, that has allowed us to redirect about $1 million to $1.5 million of dollars into our physical plant for our schools. Much of that is to make sure that, you know, these kids experience a good experience when they transition during this middle period while that school is being built. And I completely, you know, applaud the school building committee and the superintendent and the school committee for, you know, really ensuring that there's a seamless transition between, you know, what happens when that ground is broken to when we can, you know, all be cutting ribbons on that new project. That the kids that are caught in the middle will have a good and wonderful experience while they're going through their education. And so we're investing $1 million to $1.5 million to make sure that happens. But that means that there's real improvement that's going to be done to our schools. At the middle school, the Cummings School, and the Gorman School are all going to see some tweaks that are necessary, that have been identified, that are fundamental to making sure that the experience throughout the school year or 2 years during this transition period will be one that accommodates the interests of the children. We are also looking at a couple of things that will require more dedication and discipline. One is that we're focusing on the idea of digitizing our public records and accepting the future investment that will yield to this community. It's really important that we stop and pause and say, you know, we need to get into the 21st century in the way we manage our documents. We are about documents management. Everyone, every day, wants something from this community, whether it's a birth record or a building plan or what have you. And those documents are vital to this community. We need to digitize them. We need to get them into the format that people are accustomed now to seeing them. And that's so that they can be used and functional in the computer environment. And that'll save us in terms of labor expense as well as reproduction expense. So it's important that we bite that one off and dedicate each and every year to moving us into the 21st century in terms of the way we manage our records. And then we need to, as I mentioned, begin the discipline of funding other post-employment benefits. That's a mandate now under the accounting rules and under state law that we need to start biting off that unfunded liability. Presently it stands at around $11 million of estimated unfunded liability for this community. We can't continue to just ignore it. We have to start dedicating, however we can afford it, some amount of money to making sure we buy down that unfunded liability. We have 4 sources of revenues. We have, each and every year, we increase our taxation by 2.5%. And then we have new growth. Whatever decks and kitchens and whatever renovations may happen, we can assess that. So we have those 2 sources. We also have local aid, which this year, thanks to the Speaker and to the state legislature, there's been an uptick for Winthrop of roughly about 4%, better than 4% in local aid, which will go a long way to helping us close our gap in our fiscal challenges, which results in roughly about $350,000 of additional revenue for us. And then finally, we have local receipts, all the other funds that come in, fees, fines, and other expenses that we then apply to satisfying the general fund obligations. Right now, we're closing in, with the assistance of our CFO and his staff, closing in on completing a balanced budget that looks very similar to each and every year, that does a little bit, attempts to satisfy all of the fixed cost expenses of the town, and then looks to invest very smartly in a couple of areas where we think this town will be better served. And so that's been, in a nutshell, our experience over the past few weeks and months. in developing this budget as we move forward. You know, I'm thankful that we have the team we have of Superintendent Massaro, the public safety team, the DPW, and all the staff that have really, you know, done the yeoman's work of putting together and presenting a budget to this community that will be balanced, but will look to, you know, make some smart investments for the community and sustain some of the things that I've talked about tonight. And so with that, that's my summary for you folks. I'd like to ask Tim Gordon to come up and give us just a brief outlook on the present budget, because much of what's happening today has an impact on what happens tomorrow. So Tim, can you give us an assessment of the present budget?
Thanks, Jim. Every month I brief the town council on the current budget, revenue to date, and budget to actual, so I was asked to conduct that briefing here tonight at the forum. Overall, the general fund is strong. Revenue it is looking very much consistent with last year. Keep in mind we still have another quarter of property tax bills, which will be sent out later in the month, or early April. We also have excise tax is due on April 7th for this last commitment, which is the largest of the commitments, and it's 1.3 million. So for the town council members, in your Dropbox is my monthly report. You'll see that excise tax is down a little bit at the end of February compared to last year, but that's more of a timing issue with the release of the commitment from the Registry of Motor Vehicles a little bit later this year than it was last year. So nonetheless, they're due on the 7th, and it's a $1.3 million commitment, so that should bring us in line with where we need to be. Barring any completely unforeseen circumstances, the general fund will close on the right side of the ledger. We may need to transfer some funds from one department to another to meet some small deficits, but overall it's going to be okay. As it relates to free cash, I would like for us not to touch what's left in free cash for the rest of the year. We have $212,000 in free cash. Keep in mind, $850,000 of our free cash this year went into stabilization. So of the 1.5 million, we put more than half of it into stabilization. And again, that's broken out in terms of the uses of free cash. It's in your report under the free cash tab. Areas of concern that I have for this fiscal year, it's heating bills, and heating bills, as Jim alluded to. Not only are the costs up for the gas and the oil, but our usage is up much higher than prior years because it's been so cold out there. So we're managing it, we're looking at it very closely, and we're going to deal with any deficits accordingly. Street lights, those costs are also up compared to prior years. Keep in mind we brought a lot of that maintenance in-house, and my understanding is that a lot of work has been done on the street lights. So the more work we do, the more costs there are in terms of materials and supplies. And the veterans agent, who has been working very hard to get our veterans the services they deserve, has come before the council a couple of times this year for supplemental budgets. And we may need a little bit more to end the year. But we're keeping a close eye on that. And keep in mind, 75% of what is distributed out to veterans is reimbursable by the state. So, water and sewer, we've got 76% collected of our revenue budget collected to date. This includes about $900,000 in lien revenue, which is the outstanding water bills that were due at the end of the calendar year of 13, get liened onto residents' property tax bill. We've collected about 80% of what was liened. And Steve Kaler and I are working and watching our water and sewer revenue and expense, mostly revenue, very closely. It's not a red flag. I'm not overly concerned, but we're also not flush, so no pun intended. So it's something we need to look at very closely, and I'll keep briefing the council on a monthly basis as it relates to that. There's two components to the water bill that are very difficult to predict. One is how much water will folks use, and the other is will they pay the bill. So we're hoping that they use what they need in water, but more than anything else, we're hoping that they pay their bill. On recreation, revenue is up by about 6% compared to this time last year. Sean's been keeping a real close eye on both his revenue and his expense line, and but a lot of his revenue does come in at the end of the fiscal year. But he's optimistic that he's going to make his revenue mark. On the rink, revenue there is down a little bit compared to this time last year, about $8,000. But I'm told that there's a number of outstanding invoices that need to be collected upon. So I know that Wally and Amy are working hard to reach out and make those collections. Other issues, I just want to point out that FY13 property tax title, property going into tax title, will be handled within the next 30 days. So letters will go out, the notice in the paper will be published, and that will put us completely up to date on our tax title through fiscal year 13, which big shout out to the Treasurer's Office for getting through that, because in the past year or past 10 months we've leaned, we put into tax title all of the 11, 12, and 13 property tax, or 12 and 13. And that's my report.
Thanks, Tim. A very important factor and a very hard-working group in our budget preparation is our Citizens Finance Commission, which is also makes up the Finance Commission of the community. And I've asked Bob Wynn, the chairman of the Finance Commission, to come tonight and explain their role and what they do in the preparation of the budget. Bob.
Thank you, Peter. The Finance Commission was formed and created under the town charter when the town adopted the town council form of government about 9 years ago. And the purpose of the Finance Commission is pretty simple. It's to make a recommendation to the town council regarding the town manager's annual budget. Simple, but kind of complicated. The commission can recommend to the town council adoption of the town manager's budget as submitted. We can recommend amendments to that budget. And at the end of the day, the town council has to decide whether or not they would prefer to go with our recommendation, with the town managers, and of course they have the opportunity to make adjustments and amendments on their own. Collectively, the experience of the commission is quite diversified. We have 3 members who are are small business owners. We have several with backgrounds in finance, as well as healthcare, government, law, and general business. The 2 entities that comprise the commission are the members of the Town Council's Finance Committee. There are 3. And the 7 members of the Citizens Advisory Finance Committee. The Citizens Advisory members are appointed by the Council President and approved by the Town Council. In essence, in the process, they represent the citizens of the community. The Council members this year include Councilors Del Vento, Lettieri, and Sanford. And the Citizens Advisory members are Barbara Flavin, Karen Chavis, Jan Twomley, Mark Rotundo, Bob Driscoll, and myself. As a rough timeline, the town manager has to submit a budget for the July 1st fiscal year to the town council no later than May 1st, so 2 months before the budget takes effect. The council must adopt the budget within 45 days of the submission by the town manager, on or about the 15th of June. And the Finance Commission normally makes a recommendation to the council in mid to late May. However, the process starts early in the year. It starts in February. We've already met in February. We had a meeting a week ago tonight with the town's CFO, Tim Gordon. We have a meeting next Tuesday night with the superintendent and members of his budget committee. And we will probably meet 8 to 10 times between now and our recommendation in May. Also, in addition to meeting with the CFO, the town manager, and the superintendent of schools, we'd like to meet with the police chief, the fire chief, and the DPW director, because after the school department, those are the largest town budgets. In addition, the DPW director also is responsible for the water and sewer enterprise funds. And then annually, when we look at the budget, we might see a budget or two that's a little different than the year before, and we'll ask to meet specifically with those town department managers. In addition, we will meet with any department manager who wants to meet with us and discuss the budget. The budget has a lot of moving parts. It's always a work in progress. And as was alluded to by Jim McKenna, one of the key factors is the state aid that's allocated to cities and towns in the state budget. And in Winthrop's case, that represents roughly 23% of our total revenue in the general fund. And we've had years where that figure hasn't been finalized until after July 1st. So you can imagine the havoc it raises with the budget when you're trying to figure out exactly what you're going to have. Generally, the town manager, and we agree, takes a conservative approach on the on the state's revenue until we get a better handle on what that is. And it's better to be a little conservative and get a nice surprise in May or June than to go the other way. Now, often things get hectic toward the end of the budget cycle. It requires a great deal of cooperation between the Finance Commission and the town government personnel. Fortunately, we've developed a good rapport with the town manager, the CFO, the superintendent of schools, and the other town department managers, and we certainly appreciate their cooperation. I appreciate the time to speak tonight. I'll be here if there's any questions later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. As Bob mentioned, the Finance Commission reviews, and the citizens are welcome to come to their meetings and enter into their review. This past year, the Finance Commission's final report had one minor change that the council made. Other than that, the Finance Commission's report was so well done with the cooperation of the department heads, Mr. McKenna, the whole thing. It just worked better than I've ever seen it work, and I commend them all. Not only in the preparation of the budget, but then as the budget year continued on, the management of the budget, and we heard Tim say earlier where we are in that process. In your little packet you got tonight, there's a budget timeline, and it will show you what happens throughout the year in the preparation of the budget. And the last page of the budget was the council goals for the budget for this year. And you'll notice that the first several items are continue to, because those are works in progress that, as we've seen over the last 12 months of this budget in process, the last several months of this budget in process, those things are happening, as Jim had mentioned. At this point, I'd like to ask the citizens now to give us some comments, some feelings, some of their thoughts. I do have two people who have written in, and I will give their comments first. We had a question from John Battagliano. Does the town have any plans to provide funding for the Winthrop Airport Hazards Committee, which is tasked with protecting the town's interest versus Massport's interest in FAA policies concerning Logan Airport? John was unable to be here tonight, but I did want to read his question into the record. We do also have with us tonight Karina Campobasso, who, did I pronounce that right? Karina has some suggestions about solar energy and for the new high school, and they haven't been included in the budget. They're not provided for in this present budget, but she has some creative ideas. So I'm going to ask Karina to come up first. What I would ask is each person who comes up to make a statement or a question, we have the department heads here to answer questions, but that each person come up, please take the mic, because what we hear every year about this is somebody got up and we couldn't hear what they were saying. From your seat, the microphone for CAT doesn't pick it up. So I ask, please, if you're going to have a comment, if you would come up and take this mic, and we'll start with Karina.
Hi, I'm here just to ask the town council to make putting solar panels on the new high school, middle school a priority. I originally thought that I'd be asking the council to add money to the budget, but as it turns out, after doing a little research, I've learned, and I know, by the way, that Mr. Domelowitz has already investigated this a little bit, that there are many business models that towns can use working with third parties to either lease your roof space, and that can be not just for the new middle school, high school, but also for all the town buildings. And the third parties that can, companies that can take advantage of the tax incentives that governmental entities can't take advantage of, will lease the roofs and pay money to the town, or alternatively, there are other models where you lock in a lower utility rate, a lower electricity rate for by having the panels put on. The company that puts on the panels and maintains them, by the way, and owns them over the lease period, 20, 25 years, will then lock in a lower electricity rate. So there are lots of different models. It doesn't cost anything. It actually can be a fifth new source of funding for the budget. And what I'd like to ask the town council to do is to appoint a task force to look into it, to look into the different models and what would be the best model for Winthrop to use to take advantage of the fact, first of all, that as the new building is going up, it will, I think that there are some economies by installing the panels while the construction is ongoing, but also to look into whether other town buildings can support solar panels and can, further reduce our utility costs and or, earn money for the town through lease payments. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Does anybody from the School Building Assistance Committee want to make a comment on that? How did you know I was looking at you, Mary Lou?
Thank you. I'm Mary Lou Osborne from Precinct 6. I'm also on the School Building Committee. I wasn't asked to attend tonight by the School Building Committee itself, but Karina had told me about her interest in this, and she's certainly more savvy than me about solar panels. But I should report that the School Building Assistance Committee thought enough about this that even though we knew we couldn't sustain the cost of purchasing solar panels as part of the school building project, we instructed our designers to design the roof so that the roof would support the installation of solar panels sometime in the future. And after talking with Karina about installing solar panels as the roof is built, it seems to make a lot of sense. In my opinion, it should be done in cooperation with and consolidation with the actual building of the roof. So if having a task force look into how we can get funding for this at no cost to the town, and we can work in coordination with the construction folks on our school building, it should work out for us. Thank you.
Mr. President. Yes. Thank you both, Karina and Mary Lou. Councilor?
I just want to see if Jim and Joe can look at something with our Blue Wave, if that's possible.
Yes, we are already in conversation with our consultants to look at opportunities for our municipal buildings to be panelized. In fact, I had to go to the legislature this past week and speak in support of the bill to authorize new solar renewable energy credits so that we can, in fact, take advantage of those opportunities and get some of our buildings panelized. And we do have a consultant that's looking at the rink and the other surface areas of our municipal buildings to see if they are candidates as well as the new school. So that conversation has begun in earnest, and we plan on having it in fully engaged over the next few months, provided that these economic incentives are continued, because without those, really all of those incentives of which you spoke, Corinna, would not be there. So it's important that we get those in place, and so we supported them as a community this past week, and we're hopeful that we'll see those opportunities continue.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else with a concern from the... Yes, Kathleen. Just have you give your name and your precinct number.
Hi, I'm Riley Capuccio, precinct 2, I believe. I guess, well, maybe 3 things. Dawn Manning, John Vitagliano, and myself will be hosting a community meeting regarding the MWRA this Friday at 6:30 at the PSA Hall. The focus of this meeting is to discuss one...
Can I just hold you on that?
Yep.
That comes up in the regular council meeting?
Okay.
This one we just have to focus on?
Okay, fine, then I'll focus on the budget then.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, regarding the budget then, when we asked our citizens to approve the debt exclusion for the new school, which myself and many others were a big part of, the town had committed to the citizens, and the town had committed to the MSBA, I'm not sure if contractually as of yet, that we would fund the preventative maintenance plan, which there had never been a plan in effect until it was actually drafted in 2013. My question is, I guess I have a couple of questions. One, to Mr. McKenna. From what I understand from his conversation with someone else today, is that the town, again, approximately, expects receipts, or not receipts, expects additional revenue from state funding and increases in real estate taxes and other avenues or other, areas between $700,000 and $1 million. So I know the school budget, again, which is an initial budget that has been presented, is an additional $1.8 million. And my concern is where we're at on 2 items. So I have 2 specific questions. One, what is the town expecting? I know which is a approximate money. What are we expecting based on prior years from those, from again taxes and from state aid? How much money are we expecting in the budget? And where are we at in the sense of during, for lack of a better term, the campaign trail, we had discussed a $500,000 maintenance trust fund for the town facilities. So I'd like to know where we're at. Has that $500,000 fund been proposed to the council, established? We have that money. What receipts are we expecting, or what? I'm sorry. Has the $500,000 maintenance fund been formed? 2, how much money are we, again, approximating? I understand we don't know specifically how much money we are expecting to get in additional, and I'll say revenue, from FY14. And 3, if the school has and again, I'm just talking about the school, has a budget that is $1.8 million above the prior fiscal year, which again is, the wish list for optimum education, optimum funding of the school. Where are we at with that? I just want to be clear as to if we know, again, I know it's approximate numbers, but if we know that we're only going to get maybe $700,000 to $1 million in extra revenue in our next fiscal year. If our school is asking for and needs $1.8 million, how are we going to deal with that? What cuts are going to be made? And where is that money coming from? And again, let me also say, I know the negotiations of that has just started, but those are, we as citizens went to this town and said, we want this new middle high school. We are going to, the biggest concern was maintenance of our current schools and maintenance of the new schools.
Okay.
As most people know, one of the first things that gets cut in a school committee budget is maintenance. Cutting maintenance at this point on these schools is unacceptable. And I'd like to know where the town is on that. Thank you.
The town council votes the school committee a bottom line budget, and the school committee determines how they do that budget. The town council cannot, by statute, interfere with the distribution of the dollars. Mr. McKenna, if you wanted to speak to that at all, and also the fact that we did vote the special account. Tim, if you want to speak to that.
I'll try to tackle a couple of those questions. First, as it relates to the idea of putting money aside for maintenance and capital improvements, the town council actually adopted a policy earlier this year that established a capital stabilization fund and a maintenance stabilization fund with certain levels of free cash to be distributed into each of those on an annual basis. The capital stabilization fund, we funded with $400,000 from free cash. The maintenance stabilization fund, $150,000 went into that for free cash. The capital stabilization fund, the purpose of that was to be able to take a look at our capital needs through the the town council's capital subcommittee. That includes all town capital needs. The maintenance stabilization fund is really designed to deal with maintenance needs that arise, unforeseen maintenance needs that arise over the course of the years, and I believe the number that we're going to build that up to was 300,000, roughly. And so we have taken steps to incorporate some prudent, diligent policies around our free cash balances and making sure that we are strategically planning for our capital needs and our maintenance needs. The question on local receipts, in fiscal year 13, we had local receipts of approximately $3 million. And, but you know, local receipts are tough to predict because in that $3 million, we had about 250,000 of that were two separate building permits. So it's difficult to always get a good trend on local receipts. So it's very prudent to be conservative when you're budgeting in terms of local receipts. And we're in the process of putting that budget together now and looking at where we're at to date this year, comparing it to last year, taking a look at excise tax is one of the main contributors to local receipts. I think that's all I have as it relates to that.
The school department budget hasn't been presented to us yet. Okay. And that's tomorrow night.
Oh, and as Jim had mentioned earlier, the state aid, right now it's the House budget, so again, it still isn't finalized, but it's up about $350,000, $400,000.
Just to put a finer point on what the CFO has offered tonight, you know, we understand that and expect, frankly, that every department will advocate for what its needs are. And by no means, as I open tonight, I always, you know, have tried to, you know, be frank with everyone about the difficulties we'll always have in Winthrop to try to meet all of the needs. We're the tortoise in the race, not the hare, and so we have to make sure that we, you know, spend whatever additional revenues we have wisely and spread it out as far and wide as we can to get the most value for what we can afford to pay. And so, you know, I certainly encourage a healthy conversation with the schools about what their needs are. We believe the town this past fall certainly endorsed a very strong and brighter future for our children in supporting our schools. We certainly want to see our schools thrive as a consequence of that vote, and frankly, because it's the right thing to do, to support our kids. But that said, you know, there's just so much money to go around, and so we grow at about, you know, a 2.5% you know, revenue base each year. That leaves about $700,000 to spread around to education, to public safety, to public works, to public health, to, you know, the panoply of services that this town must meet as a full-service community. And so there's naturally, you know, a give and take and a level of expectations that has to be set about what we can afford to provide. And thankfully, you know, the school department and the school committee have, you know, embraced a culture of one with the town to have, you know, honest conversations about what our revenues are, and share information that you know, we're all entitled to know, that inform us about how those decisions are developed and finally voted. So I appreciate your concern. I think we've taken the steps we need to vote the funding, you know, as a first step. And you know, the funds that we've established are the first investments that we've made in that respect. They're not the last. We intend to, you know, do everything we can to live with those disciplines of funding as our available funds become available, more into those stabilization funds, so we ensure that the schools are maintained going forward.
I commend the overwhelming majority of support that the community gave to the schools. And I think, as Jim mentioned earlier, and we now are looking at the schools as a department of the town. As you know, for many years in many communities, the schools, it's been the schools versus the town. And I think now we're seeing the town and the schools becoming cooperative, and the schools being identified and feeling like, and the town feeling like mutually that the schools are a department of the town as opposed to the schools versus the town. And by the way, Kathleen, the school department does have their hearing on the budget tomorrow night.
I'll be there.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any input? Chief Delahanty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Town manager, it's reassuring to hear in the back of the room that the underlying source is this money has to be spread around. Nothing can go into one department as a whole. We're still suffering from cutbacks from 2008. For those of us who lived through the cutbacks of 2008, we had no stabilization and reserve revenue to offset those the layoffs. So every week or every other 6 months or so, we're handing out pink slips and layoff notices. And I think it's prudent that we guide ourselves against that behavior in the future. So we're still, the police is still down and not up to 2008 levels. And I think people forget that. I'm an advocate of the schools. I certainly voted for the new school, and I support the schools on a daily basis in my professional career and as a parent. And I don't want to create the atmosphere or attitude of division, but I think it's important to keep that in perspective where we were just a few years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Is there any other citizen input, private citizen input? If not, I thank you all for being here tonight, and I encourage you, should you come up with other input, that you get in touch with Mr. Wynn or with your counselor or with the town manager's office or the CFO's office. We need your input, but we also need your understanding that, as Jim said and as Bob said and Tim said, that, you know, there is just so much money. We need to establish our priorities and make sure that we're doing them correctly. I think we're on the right path when we talked about our vision. Our vision is not just for tomorrow. We need our vision of Winthrop for the next several years moving forward. And I think we're going in the right direction. Again, I commend the budget preparation over the last few years and also the budget management, that we wound up where we did with free cash, and we wound up with balanced budgets. So again, thank you all for your input tonight, and welcome to the FY15 budget. Thank you. Good evening. The meeting for the Winthrop Town Council for March 18th, 2014 is now called to order. Would you all please rise? Councilor Sanford, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council Clerk Quist, would you call the roll, please?
Councilor Callow. Councilor Sanford. Here. Councilor Moncory.
Here.
Councilor Barone.
Here. Present.
Councilor Terry. Councilor Biagin.
Present.
Councilor Mayo.
Here.
Vice President Del Vento.
Present.
President Gill.
Present.
Thank you.
A quorum has been established. Minutes for the last meeting of March 4th. Could I have as circulated, could I have a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Councilor Barone, seconded by Councilor Biagin. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Public hearing continued from March 4th on inspectional services reorganization. Is there anybody in the public that has any comment on the reorganization of the inspectional services? If not, that hearing is closed. Opening of the hearing of the fund appropriations. Is there anyone from the public that would like to be heard on the fund appropriation transfers? Or is there anyone from the finance department that would like, finance committee that would like to be heard? The other one, the big one? Or do you want to just hold until your committee report?
I'll hold till the committee report.
Is there anyone else that wants to be heard under the multiple fund appropriation? If not, that hearing is closed. And the third hearing is a transfer of $75,000 within the cemetery department. Mr. McKenna, could you just give us a briefing on that?
Yeah, allow me to defer to Steve Calla to be more detailed on how that money will be spent. Steve.
Good evening. Yeah, $75,000 we're requesting is to resurface the roadways in the lower section of Cross Street Cemetery along Lakeview and Surf Ave, as well as the roadway in the upper section, coming in from Buchanan Street, including the Rotary and out to Madison. Also be recurbing with the upper Rotary and repairing some of the footpaths as well as replanting of approximately 30 trees within the cemetery.
Those are the trees that you recently have removed?
That's correct.
Does anyone else have any comment on the public hearing for the transfer of $75,000 within the cemetery budget? If not, that hearing is... Oh, sorry. Mr. Mayo?
So this is money we generated from the sale of graves? Is that? And what's the balance in that when we're done? Just out of curiosity.
The balance in the perpetual care?
Yeah, there's 144,000 in it right now.
So this would cut it in half, give or take. And this isn't perpetual care money, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's precise.
Well, there is a perpetual care unreserved account, cemetery perpetual care unreserved. So this is different from that.
Can't hear.
This is different from that?
Yeah, there's a cemetery perpetual care unreserved fund with 560,000 in it.
So this...
That's dedicated money for certain graves.
Right, yeah.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, the perpetual care fund dedicates revenues according to instructions for specific graves and for specific purposes. That money we don't spend. We also generate interest on perpetual care that goes in. That's what's available for expenditure.
Okay.
That's then allowed to be used to distribute for projects and to take care of the cemetery as a whole.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's the money now that becomes available as a sort of a pour-over account
Right.
that we use to fund capital improvements.
Okay.
We've identified, you know, a number of improvements that have been languishing for many years. I think this has been something that Steve has wanted to accomplish for a long time, and he certainly has my endorsement to.
No, I think it's a great idea. So now when if I'm not going to say when someone would buy a grave, do they have the option of paying for perpetual care, or is it part of the bill?
It's part of the bill.
Oh, thank you.
It's included in the sale of the grave.
So you buy a grave, you get the perpetual care, we put the money into the 560, it generates income, and there's 144,000 in generated income, of which you're going to use 75.
No, if I may, Mr. President,
Okay, Tim?
the account that we're the proposal to transfer out of is the sale of cemetery lots. So these are actual, you know, sales.
Okay.
And that has 144,000 in it right now.
Is there any further comment? Craig, you all set? Anyone else? If not, that public hearing is closed. We move on to public comment. Council Bayaji, you wanted to?
So I wanted to read into public record our correspondence with the Mohegan Sun that they've made clearly public and violated the private negotiations. I wanted to read the letter from Mohegan Sun as well as our response and a comment from myself, not from the council afterwards.
So you are reading this as a citizen?
As a citizen.
Okay.
It's not representing the entire council. Thank you. March 14, 2014. Addressed to James McKenna, Town Manager, Town of Winthrop. Dear Jim, in response to your recent offer of $5 million in unspecified annual mitigation to the Town of Winthrop and request for an additional $20,000 for additional study of traffic impacts, please be advised that we reject your offer and request. That said, we remain committed to working with you and the Town of Winthrop to enter into an agreement that will provide for the community impact fee as well as to identify known impacts from the development and operating of a gaming establishment in Revere in accordance with the Gaming Act. I note that we have provided you and your council with extensive traffic study information provided by our traffic consultant, VHB. This information has been peer-reviewed by third-party consultants working on behalf of the cities of Boston and Revere, as well as the MEPA, the Boston Transportation Department, MassDOT, Massport, and others. My comment is nowhere in there was mentioned the Town of Winthrop, the city. Given the extensive information that has been provided thus far through the public review process for this project, it is unclear to me why you need additional funds to study the same traffic patterns. Furthermore, as data clearly indicates, there will be no measurable, unmitigated impact to the Town of Winthrop, its residents, in connecting with Mohegan Sun, Massachusetts resort proposal. To date, Mohegan Sun has reached agreements with 7 of our 10 surrounding communities. The community impact fee provided for in these agreements range from $50,000 to $2.5 million, the highest in the Commonwealth. Given this context, your current offer of $5 million seems not only out of line with the impacts to be experienced by Winthrop residents, but also out of line with other comparable surrounding communities. I also wanted to address some of the mistaken assertions that you made in your recent letter to Secretary Sullivan regarding the MEPA notice of project change for our project, as well as the notice of project change filed by Sterling Suffolk. SSR, the proponent of EEA number 14747, has entered into a binding agreement with Mohegan Sons LLC, the proponent of the EEA number 15006. Pursuant to the MSA, will hold a long-term lease of land located off Winthrop Avenue, the city of Revere, Massachusetts, which currently houses the horse barns for Suffolk Downs Racetrack. Pursuant to our agreement with SSR, MSM may remove the horse barn from the MSM property at any time after September 1st, 2014. Point 2, as it made clear in the notice of project change submitted by MSN with request, The MSN proposal does not require the relocation of Suffolk Downs Horse Barn to East Boston, only that they remove from the site of the proposed resort casino. Under the binding agreement referenced above, the removal of the horse barns from MSM properties is the right of MSN and will be conducted by MSN in connection with the proposed casino development. Because MSN has the right to remove the horse barns and racing support use from the MSN property, SSR has three options: allowing the racetrack to close, a prospect that it has already rejected, finding an off-site location for these use, or construct new stables and racing support facilities on the East Boston portion of the property. Because its commitment to keep the racing track open, SSR has filed a notice of project change which describes principally the construction of new stable, exercise, maintenance, and racing support facilities on the Boston portion of the Suffolk Downs property within and adjacent to the existing Suffolk Downs grandstands. Because of this use will no longer be located on the MSN property, this work will result in abandonment of the existing animal feed operation product area. As described in the notice of project change from Suffolk Downs stable area and racecourse stormwater improvements, this work will result in an overall reduction of the environmental impact, including an improvement in the quality and reduction in the stormwater flowing from the racetrack into Sales Creek and the Belle Isle Marsh. Sorry for this long-worded read. And their final point, should SSR be unsuccessful in moving forward with these improvements, a prospect that neither MSM or SSR desires, then its other option would be to find an off-site location for the horses. Regardless, MSN is nevertheless entitled to demolish the existing structure on the MSM property after September 1st, 2014, wholly independently from the SSR. I would respectfully request the opportunity with the full town council to meet in a public session to discuss our proposal to develop and operate a resort casino and how we can move forward towards a fair and reasonable surrounding community agreement that will address all known impacts to the town of Winthrop. Sincerely, J. Gary, I'm going to butcher the name, Luderitz, Vice President of Operations and Development, and CC'd on this supposedly private conversation, the Honorable Robert DeLeo, the Honorable Anthony Petroselli, Mayor Dan Rizzo, Mayor Martin Walsh, Secretary Richard Sullivan, MEPA Office Holly Johnson, Chip Tuttle, Sterling, Suffolk Racecourse, Bruce Toby, Esquire, and John Stefanini, Esquire, on that private conversation and discussion.
Yeah.
So our response, again, to was, Dear Mr. Stefanini, on behalf of the town of Winthrop, I am writing to object to the actions of your client, Mohegan Sun, which improperly spread upon the public record MSN's version of the facts and events of the supposed confidential negotiations which have been underway between the town and MSN in an effort to conclude a surrounding community agreement as required by the Massachusetts Gaming Act. This breach of process occurred in a letter entitled Response to the Recent Offer of the Town of Winthrop, dated March 14th, 2014, and sent by Gary Luderitz, MSN Vice President for Operations and Administration, to the town manager and those named in a lengthy distribution list. This action was an affront to a good faith behavior of the town in engaging MSM in these negotiations and to the spirit of fair play which the act intended to establish for the protection of Massachusetts cities and towns potentially impacted by the proposed gaming operation. The town recognizes MSM is within its right when it contests statements which the town may have made in writing and at your encouragement, is in parentheses, as part of the environmental review process now separately underway, and shares the perspective of various interested parties. By that right, but that right does not sanction the breach to which I object, which can only be construed as an attempt to perpetrate a political end run on the process which the law supposedly renders immune from political inference. The town expects that there will be no recurrence of this behavior, and that MSN's attempt to ostracize the town by unfairly characterizing the town's effort to assess project's impact and defend itself from the town will now stop. The town looks forward to the resumption of talks with MSN concerning a surrounding community agreement within the framework of process, town charter, and state law, which this unfortunate incident has governed, which until this unfortunate incident has governed our negotiations. Sincerely, Bruce Toby, and it's again CC's the Honorable Robert DeLeo, the Honorable Anthony Petroselli, the Honorable Martha Coakley, Attorney General, James McKenna, Town Manager Winthrop, Mayor Daniel Rizzo Revere, Mayor Martin Walsh Boston, Secretary Richard K. Sullivan Jr., MEPA Office Holly Johnson, Gary Ludritz, Mohegan Sun, Massachusetts, Chip Tuttle, Sterling, Suffolk, Racecourse LLC, and John Zimba, MGC Ombudsman. So again, as a private citizen, I feel that Mohegan Sun has violated the law by making private negotiations public. I suspect the Gaming Commission will ignore this, as they've allowed them to violate the commission rules since the neighbors in East Boston have rejected the casino. I do commend Mohegan Sun for three things. First, for saving jobs at Suffolk Downs, that's a good thing. Second, for getting our representatives to sit on the sidelines, convinced by the casinos that there's no negative impact to this community they represent. And third, for knowing they don't need to negotiate in good faith because they already know the odds are prohibitively in their favor because they feel the important decision makers are rooting for them, which is to our peril. This allows the ultra-rich 1%ers to nickel and dime our small community, trying to convince us that they would be a good neighbor when in reality they're only about maximizing the obscene profit they will make off of the backs of the working people of Winthrop.
Thank you.
And I'm done.
Public comment. Continue. Chief.
You're allowing us to comment on negotiations, or
Not on negotiations, but on the fact that they have gone public with confidential information. The negotiations, we are respecting confidentiality, and we are hoping from this point on they will respect confidentiality.
So are we not allowed to ask questions about what is being negotiated or what could be added to the agenda of negotiations?
Correct. And I'll explain that a little bit on the next. Let's the chief, and then I'll answer your question.
Thank you for entertaining my comments. It's pretty disturbing when you're negotiating with any organization that's supposed to be reputable and have the best interest of the communities at stake, and they violate that trust. We have no faith, from what I can see in the letters that were read here tonight, that the Casino Commission is going to give us any relief. So my question, I guess, would be to the town manager and to the council, is why aren't we moving for an injunction in Superior Court to enforce the laws of the Commonwealth as it pertains to confidentiality? I know it's an expensive, long shot, and but certainly this has irreparably harmed the negotiations from our perspective and our point of view as a citizen. I'm not privy to what is on the table and what's being discussed, but I am privy to common knowledge in the community and the communities that extend beyond our jurisdiction. And we all know that Mohegan Sun has publicly stated the flyover is not in their plans. So if the flyover is not in their plans, traffic congestion is going to back up even more on us, not less. Their new theory is, well, we'll widen McClellan Highway. I don't know the last time anyone here has been down McClellan Highway, but I travel it 3 or 4 times a week, and there's curbs on either side. The width of McClellan Highway is the width of McClellan Highway. And I don't think there's going to be any eminent domain taking of public sidewalks to widen that area. So our traffic problem is not getting any better, it's getting worse. And certainly they expect us to trust them when they won't even sit confidentially at a negotiations table. So I just think that we have to take this breach very seriously, and that we should exercise any legal options we have in Superior Court for injunctive relief. Thank you.
As far as the confidentiality, we have hired a professional negotiator. We've also hired an outside third-party company to determine and to study the negative effects that, because Suffolk, Mohegan's Sun doesn't agree with the negative effects that we've presented, so we have hired an outside company, third party. Any public discussion of negotiation will have a serious detrimental effect on anything that we can do in private negotiations. As the chief mentioned, negotiation should be confidential. The charter specifically, according to our town council, spelled with an S, the town lawyers, specifically states that the town manager, in conjunction with the town council president, does the negotiation. We're doing it under the guidance of and with the expertise of the professional negotiators that we've hired. So it would be detrimental for us to expose any numbers or to accept any numbers from the citizenship as to what we think we should be negotiating. Let me just go back to the public so we do one at a time. Quick, Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen Capuccio, Precinct 2. I think I'm now speaking at the right time. I guess I have two things I want to address. One is that Dawn Manning, John Vitagliano, and myself, just as an initial group of people getting together, are hosting a community meeting this Friday at the PSA Hall at 6:30. The focus of this meeting is to discuss a couple of things. It's regarding MWRA, citizens' concerns relating to the current operation of the Deer Island plant, including traffic issues, which have been numerous, and property damage that has occurred to the properties of, retaining walls on someone's yards, to trees, and also we're going to discuss the new MWRA Code Digestion Pilot Program, which is a new addition to, right now, the Deer Island Treatment Plant handles primary and secondary treatment of sewage. The new plan that was agreed to by the MWRA is a new code digestion plan. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also talking about forming a citizens advisory committee. So we welcome anyone from the town that would like to come and express your concerns. If you want to get involved, this is the time. If you want your voice to be heard, this is the time to come. We're all busy. I myself am a mother of 3. My husband works 12 hours a day. I work, life is busy. I'm not saying that people can always attend meetings. I completely respect that. I do believe, however, that our citizens need to stand up, voice our concerns. We need to be part of the process. We need to make our town government accountable for their actions and inactions. So I really just hope that anyone that can attend can please attend. Again, PSA Hall this Friday, MWRA community meeting at 6:30 would be great. The second thing that I just wanted to address, which I just addressed at a different forum, is that like all of the town budgets, if you will, from the the different town departments are being submitted. I think I'm okay to talk about this. Yeah. All the town budgets are being submitted right now, and I know that our school committee has worked really hard in formulating their budget of their needs. As a town, we voted on, I will say, November 4th, I think, November 4th? 5th? November 5th, our town overwhelmingly beyond what I could even imagine as a member of that committee, for a debt exclusion to fund a new middle high school. From what I'm hearing, however, today, is that we may only receive, which again is, it is what it is, $800,000 to $1 million in additional revenue, if you will, from the state aid, and from our taxes. So if we have that monies, which would have to supply contractual salary increases across the board between departments, and also try to suffice and manage all these budgets. My concern, and I think a big concern of this town council, and I know that the town council, and I think it's fabulous, and I'm thrilled to hear it, has set aside, this money for the maintenance trust fund. Again, I'm not sure how the money gets distributed, what the networks is. My concern is the, again, initial budget that the school committee is sending to you guys, to the town council, is $1.8 million, meaning $1.8 million above last year. Our schools are hurting in different areas. We went, and as a member of Winthrop is Worth It, we went to our town and said, we're gonna work on maintenance. I had many town officials I could say that said, we're gonna set up a $500,000 maintenance fund to make sure that our schools are in, the shape that they should be. And I just I'm concerned that if our town manager, and again, he's not making up numbers, only says that we might have $800,000 to $1 million, if the school committee's initial budget is 1.8, and from what I'm hearing, historically, the school might receive a third of that budget. So let's just say even on the higher end, we're looking at $400,000.
Just to interrupt, Kathleen, as we talked in the last session, the council votes the school department a bottom line, and the school department then determines how they plug it in.
No, and I understand it. What I would like, so I'll be very direct. My question to the town manager right now, or to the town council, is what is the amount that, based on historical background, we would receive for our next fiscal year?
We don't. We don't
well,
have that number.
Well, I know Mr. McKenna had a conversation today with someone and gave a number. So what I'd like to know is, again, gave an approximate number. So what I'd like to know is, what is the number that's an approximate number that we think we're going to receive? And if he can't, which again, I don't know, if that number's not allowable or not, whatever, I want to know. My concern again is that we have promised the citizens of this community we are going to fund a maintenance plan. And if we can't fund it, and then for lack of a better word, we have to get into a contest between funding positions for our school teachers and funding maintenance, we're going to have some community outrage.
Kathleen,
that's what I'm asking.
Kathleen, we talked about that in the finance portion of this meeting, and we said that money had been set aside into a capital improvement and to a maintenance account.
Yes, as I discussed
at this
earlier.
Point,
what I'm asking is, Mr. Gill,
at this point,
is
Kathleen,
how much money there is going to be
Kathleen,
available. That's what I'm asking.
at this point, once the Citizens Finance Committee and the Town Finance Committee and the town manager reviews and sets up a budget, then we will be able to address that issue, unless you feel comfortable in addressing it right this minute.
I don't know who you're speaking to, but I gave no number to anyone. This is a budget process that we've undertaken.
Of course.
We have a lot of work ahead of us, a lot of decisions to be made. There's been no decisions made on anything. We understand that the schools have a budget process as well, and they have, provided information relative to what they would like to see funded. That's their prerogative, and we certainly, hope that to listen to what they're advocating for, and we encourage that advocacy, frankly. But that doesn't mean that any decisions have been made whatsoever relative to funding. So I hope that people aren't no, I'm sorry, it's my turn.
Oh, no, of course.
Okay. No budget numbers have been given to anyone. The only numbers that we have are what's public record right now, which is what we get in local aid and what our estimates are that we've expressed tonight of what we expect to see in new revenues going forward. That's it. Okay?
May I ask one follow-up?
Let me just comment one other thing,
Of course,
that
yes, yes.
as I said in the budget, in the spring forum earlier before this meeting, we are not the town versus the schools. We are a town of several departments, one of which is the school department. And we are not here to pit one against the other. But the school department gets a bottom line budget. Every other department gets a budget that the council votes on each and every line within. The school department budget is up to Mr. Macero and the school committee how they distribute the monies that are given to them. The money amount that's given to them in a bottom line has not yet been decided. Mr. Macero.
Thank you, John Macero, Superintendent, President, Winthrop, 14 Dalton Ave. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things. That's not the school committee's budget yet. It's a proposed budget that's going to be talked about tomorrow night. It's a public hearing. The school committee will have an opportunity to vote on the budget proposal that they're going to pass on to the town manager. That vote may come as early as Monday, March 24th. It's important that what's tomorrow night is, because I know people are talking about 1.8 and all that, these are things that have come out of our site councils, our proposals, that we're going to be discussing as part of our public process about the budget with the school committee. The school committee will then make a recommendation of what that amount is that will go to you folks. And then what happens is that that amount will come back to us from the town that will tell us what that bottom line is. It is the responsibility of myself to then go back and look at that budget and make recommendations to the school committee on what that balanced budget will be. The other part that I do want to make, I want to make it public that yes, I was part of that work that worked with the maintenance budget with Mr. Gordon and Mr. McKenna, as well as with Mr. Wynn. And we talked, and Mr. Del Vento, where we worked on creating those areas so that we have money put aside. But as the superintendent, I stated it before, and I will continue to state it, that maintenance is a huge, huge priority. It will continue to be a huge priority under my administration, and we have put more and more each day into our schools to make sure that that happens. And whatever budget comes back, we will do it, its due service that it does, that it needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michelle. Any further public comment? One more comment, Kathleen.
Oh, it's actually not a comment, it's a follow-up. Just my follow-up for Mr. McKenna is, and again, I was unfortunately 10 minutes late. Can you tell me what, and again, I apologize that I wasn't here, what your projected, I think you just referred to earlier, what your projected amount of revenue you believe, again, I know it's approximate, that you're going to receive for the next fiscal year is?
As, you know, we have only gotten preliminary read from what local aid may be for us.
Yeah.
There's nothing been voted on Beacon Hill. So that's a question,
Yeah.
all right? We have an estimate of what that is. We're also estimating what our local receipts may be to support our budget. We are not here tonight to report the final number on what that is. We have to rely on important, information in order to propose what those revenues are and confer, frankly, with the Finance Commission on what we agree as a set of numbers that are sustainable going forward. So tonight is premature for us to announce how much money is available. There's a process underway in which we engage in understanding the best information that we have and data that we can rely on and propose a budget that's comprehensive and sustainable with the input of this Finance Commission that has to agree, frankly, on what revenue projections look like and what are reliable. So tonight, I really don't want to give you numbers.
We're going to move on, Kathleen. We had the finance session. The school committee has a budget meeting tomorrow night, and there is the budget sessions, budget process has just started.
I understand.
That information is not available.
If you want me to stop?
Yes.
Asking public comment, I certainly will.
Thank you.
Well noted, thank you.
Other public comment? Yes, Heather.
Good evening, Heather Engman, Precinct 4. Thank you for taking public comment again this evening. I appreciate it. And I'm not even sure where to start on the casino issue because I continue to get more and more alarmed about the process as it moves forward. The correspondence that Councillor Boyajian just shared is alarming and insulting and really shows a complete disregard for our community, and that's really troubling for me. As I've said in the past, I care about this casino issue because I really love living in this town. This is a fantastic place to live. My husband and I just love it here. It's a great place to be, and we have to protect it. We have to, the town, and I urge the town council to please fight for our community. As a surrounding community, Winthrop is in a really unique position. We're basically going to be boxed in by this casino development. It's less than a mile away from each of the 2 access points to our town. And there are many homes in Winthrop, including mine, that are closer to the casino site than homes in East Boston or Revere. And so any assertion that this development isn't going to have a huge impact on our town is ridiculous and completely disingenuous. Winthrop is also unlike other surrounding communities, that have multiple roads in and out, or that cover large geographic areas. So even if a surrounding community shares a border with a host community, the surrounding community homes may still be, a dozen miles away from the development. So Winthrop is really in a unique and I think compromised position here, in that we're really lacking some bargaining power and an ability to defend ourselves. At this stage in the game, I'm really concerned about the lack of information about how the negotiations are going. This is the first information I've gotten tonight, and that's alarming. I think that it would be helpful with the Gaming Commission hearings coming up on March 25 and then again on April 7th. This is the one opportunity that Winthrop residents have to address the Gaming Commission directly. And as I've mentioned in the past, the casino law requires the Gaming Commission to consider the support or opposition of surrounding communities in deciding whether or not to issue a license. So the Gaming Commission has to consider what Winthrop residents have to say about this matter. And for myself, I feel like I can't adequately advocate for myself if I don't even know what the deal is going to be. Any mitigation agreement that the town gets needs to have enough money for additional police officers, additional firefighters, and inspectional services. As we heard this evening from the police chief, the police and fire staffing still isn't back to the 2008 levels, and so that's a real concern. I continue to be very concerned also that the Gaming Commission is repeatedly waiving its own rules and regulations on legal process in order to accommodate the casino developers. The Gaming Commission appears to be working for the casino industry rather than for the taxpayers, and is not looking out for the best interest of the community. And this is really disturbing. I've said this before too, but if the casino developers, if Mohegan Sun and Suffolk Downs are willing to disregard the needs of Winthrop at this stage in the game while they're competing for the license, while they're trying to impress the Gaming Commission, they are even more likely to completely disregard us once they get the license. It also is worth mentioning that Winthrop already hosts the water treatment facility and a portion of Logan Airport. We may soon have trucks filled with other people's food waste coming down our streets. And how much can Winthrop take? I mean, the casino would be a third problem and a third thing that needs to be mitigated. And what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? This is really concerning. So I guess I'd like to know more information about the status of the negotiations. I'd like to know what offer has been made to the town and where that stands. And I'd like to also emphasize that the Gaming Commission hearings are coming up on March 25 and April 7th. And I would urge the town council to attend the hearing to strongly oppose this casino development. The casino licensing process is not proceeding in a manner that's fair to communities, particularly to small communities like Winthrop. So please speak up, tell the Gaming Commission that Winthrop opposes the the casino in Revere. And please protect Winthrop from getting stuck with a very bad deal. Thanks.
Thank you. What I can say on the negotiation process is that it's at a totally unacceptable, insulting level. I cannot be specific. And as far as attendance at the meeting on the 25th, I hope everybody will be there. We don't have. I will be there as I will be there as a citizen, and I will be there in opposition to the casino. However, since the day the casino was proposed, my stand has been that if the casino comes here, if we have we've had no choice. If it comes here, then we need to get the best mitigation package we can. I would prefer that we get no mitigation and no casino, but we need to, I as a citizen, have the need to have my town get the best mitigation package. Also, I need my town to feel that we're being respected, and I agree we've been insulted. I'm sorry. Let me just finish with the public and then we'll come back. Is there anybody else in the public that wants to speak? Yes.
Hello, my name is Astrid Wines. I live in Precinct 3, and I'm here just to kind of use Heather's momentum a little bit to reiterate some of the points that are very close to my heart, because I'm a citizen. I'm not a citizen of the country, but I'm a resident of Winthrop, and I'm very, very concerned about this Mohegan Sun project going forward the way it is. And I'm here also to speak for my husband, Jonathan, who can't be here tonight, but who will attend next week's meeting with the Gaming Commission. And he will read this statement that I'm reading to you now from both of us next week as well. My husband, Jonathan, and I are deeply concerned about the Mohegan Sun casino development plans at Suffolk Downs and Revere. Why are we concerned? Simply because, as a matter of fact, as Heather already stated, this casino is going to be closer to our homes than it will be to many of the homes in Revere. And we, as opposed to them, had no vote, no chance to voice our concerns or to actively participate in the process. The internet provides us with a lot of information about potential positive and negative impacts of casinos on the surrounding communities. However, as a scientist, I am used to scrutinizing the literature in search for precedents and outcomes, and I have come to find only very sparse information about casinos in an urban setting like ours. This leaves room for a lot of speculation on both the opponent and the proponent side regarding the impact of an urban casino on our community, and very little certainty. Therefore, in reality, despite of what other people will tell you, we do not know for sure what is going to happen to our community if or when this casino comes in. It is this uncertainty that makes me concerned, and my husband. And the whole process we've followed in the media so far, and what I've learned tonight, has not instilled a lot of trust either. I don't want to talk again about any gambling addiction, decreasing home values, increasing insurance, or crime. I rather want to draw your attention to how a casino like this could impact our daily lives as Winthrop residents, how it has the potential to destroy our idea of how our kids should be growing up. We do not count gambling, my family does not count gambling among the activities we want to spend our spare time on, and thus we cannot identify any direct benefit of an operation like that to us. In addition, we see very little, if any, benefit to Winthrop as a whole, especially if the mitigation agreement is less than substantial. We bought a house here because we love being near the ocean. In the years we have lived here, we fell in love with Winthrop for its potential, its salt of the earth people, its proximity to the city. I work as a physician scientist at Brigham and Women's Hospital, so we could have just as well chosen a western Boston suburb to live in, yet we chose Winthrop. And we chose it for the great things I mentioned. Despite concerns by friends and family, frankly. Yes, Winthrop has its challenges, and we all know them. You know, I'm sure everybody has received comments like we did. Winthrop next to the airport? Where's Winthrop? Isn't that where the wastewater treatment plant is? These concerns are easy to silence, but soon we may also be known as the town next to the casino. Is that the image we want to portray of our town? Is providing low-income housing to casino workers and low-income jobs to our residents and taking the mitigation money from Mohegan Sun our plan to ensure sustainable growth and health in our community? We think, my husband and I think, and a lot of other people think, Winthrop can do much better than that. So, not only won't a casino benefit us directly, our family will have to share our already limited infrastructure, as we've heard tonight, including our roads, our sparse shopping opportunities, our emergency response system and law enforcement system with absolute strangers who have no interest in our town. People here are hoping for streams of customers to their businesses, restaurants, and hotels. While we understand this view completely, let's keep in mind a casino like this will cater to its customers' every need. Do we really believe that after their gambling spree, they're going to come to Winthrop and have a snack at Cafe Rossetti's, a drink at La Siesta, or see the Winthrop Playmakers or Winthrop Marketplace to do their grocery shopping? A casino has no clocks and no windows, and as such, there will be absolutely no incentive to Mohegan Sun to encourage their clientele to visit Winthrop. Furthermore, I may face a daily scenario like we all did for the past 3 months, right? While the Callahan Tunnel was closed, I had to leave work at 4:30 p.m. to make sure I get to my son, Bright Beginnings, here in town at 6 p.m. Keep in mind, in my job, I'm not always in control of my hours. I'm in patient care. This would be more than a nuisance. It would impact our family life substantially and would not be sustainable long-term for our family. We are deeply worried about the fate of this town in the event the casino comes in. In the best case scenario, the casino will be a nuisance. In the worst case scenario, it will throw us back years in our communal efforts to attract young, prospering, involved individuals and families, efforts that would build on what is already being done, at least partially successfully, improve the schools, support local businesses and restaurants, restore beaches and parks, and revive the cultural life of this town. Changes that we all want, and then we all agreed to pay for with our tax money. Unfortunately, in our opinion, a casino complex in our immediate neighborhood, within a mile of this town, mitigation or not, threatens this vision of what Winthrop could be and the positive changes that have come and are to come from within our community, not from the outside. So if you ask us, do we think that Winthrop should oppose the casino? I think yes. And if it does come anyway, please do not let them get away cheap. Winthrop and its residents deserve better.
Thank you very much. Very well put. Thank you.
It's on there.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Very nice. Any further public comment? Yes.
Oh, no, but no, Astrid, come on. It's a tough act to follow.
Before I forget, there is a YouTube of the presentation that they gave to the Gaming Commission. And before I forget, it's youtu.be/et 8RU U, capital U, B, capital A. If you want, come up and see me afterwards. I have it on my cell phone. Your name and precinct, please.
Good evening, Kay Moriarty O'Dwyer, and my husband Rob and I own a home in Precinct 3 on Cottage Avenue. I'm the mother of 3 children. I work in Boston at Emmanuel College, small Catholic liberal arts college. Tonight is actually my youngest son, Cormac's, first birthday. You might wonder, why am I here the night of my baby's first birthday? And I can think of no other way to celebrate his life than to make sure I make it known to the town council and my friends in Winthrop how important we do something about this situation is. I also asked my daughter tonight, who often has a funny response. She's 5 years old. She's a kindergartner at Gorman Fort Banks. What should I say tonight, Gemma? And she said, just tell them you love your family. And I think that's why all of us are here tonight. And Astrid, you were amazing, and I felt you. I came last fall to the town council to speak with you about the impact on local business, traffic, crime, addiction. I'm not going to talk about any of that tonight. I'm also not going to try and understand any of the palace intrigue or transparency or non-transparency that goes into mitigation agreements. I will tell you I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts originally. I'm a transplant here in Winthrop, and my loved ones back home are all going through a mitigation agreement themselves. So I know firsthand how difficult this is for everybody sitting here and how much it will impact everybody sitting here. One of my friends was recently voted onto the school committee of Revere, Susan Gravelisi, and it's been very interesting speaking with her about how the process has been going on as not only a Revere resident, but also as now a Revere official. And we certainly stand on different ground there. Like Astrid said, with the Callahan Tunnel being closed and needing to care for my children at the end of the day, we had to take the Tobin Bridge, and every day I picked up my husband at the Beachmont Blue Line station, and we would ride through that little hamlet with the sun coming down on the water, and it was really a very peaceful way to end the day. And I thought, these days are numbered, you know? This is not the way it's going to be for very much longer. And you know, that's a neighborhood that struggled to have some strength too, but I digress. In a very limited way, because I am a mom and because I work full-time, I wasn't able to lend my support to the No Eastie Casino effort in a way that I felt really mattered. I went to some meetings, I gathered some names, and I sent in my petition, and I remember walking into the basement in East Boston and looking at the panoply of citizens sitting in the basement, working their buns off after a day of work, after a day of collecting signatures and making it happen. And then I came to our town council meeting and I heard the Winthrop is worth it. Some of the leadership of that effort speak about how fulfilling it was to have this grassroots community effort that won. And the No Eastie Casino effort, however strange the Revere end of it came out, it worked. So, like I said, I don't understand the politics and why I'm just hearing about the $5 million and the letter and everything else. I guess what I'm saying is, how can we help you to do what it is that you're doing? Because we're up for it. And we're strong, and this is what we want. And I'm not going to repeat anything Astrid and Heather already said very eloquently, but we're here, and we want to do this. And no matter how busy we are, we'll make the time to do it. So just tell us what it is, whatever it is that you can tell us, apparently. But we'll do it. Just tell us. You know, we're a family in this town, and we look out for each other. So what can we do? Thank you.
I think the first thing we all have to do is be at the meeting March 25th. Yes.
And that's, repeat that? The first thing we do.
Pardon me?
Can you repeat what you just said?
I said that what we all need to do is be at the meeting on the 25th. That's one thing we need to do.
Yes, and that's a perfect tie-in for what I was thinking, because a few minutes ago when you were talking about when Heather asked you all
I'm sorry,
to come to the
just
meeting. My name is Kent Elliott, and
Precinct.
I'm on Reed Bangles side, on that side. So I think it's precinct 1, maybe? Sorry,
2.
I got a little card saying I'm now voting at the Cummings today, so I'm in one of those wards. So as Heather was saying, we should all go to that meeting on the 25th, and you were saying you all are going to try to go as best you can. I was thinking, if you come and represent us, we will come and represent you. Let's stand together. Let's work together. Like, if I actually saw you guys at the meeting, I'd be like, yes, because they really care.
Just to correct, I was talking as a private citizen. I
Yes.
said, I will be there.
That gives me hope. And the next thing I wanted to say is that I've been coming to these meetings now for a couple of years, and I told my son tonight, we're going to go and we're going to say what we think, but they're not really going to listen to us. I already know that, but we still have to say what we think anyway. And that I'm sort of segueing backwards in a way, because on the one hand, tonight's the first night I've sort of had hope that maybe you guys really do care and that you really are going to work on our behalf. But at the same time, every time I come to a meeting, I keep hearing about the way I hear it is that laws just keep being broken and gone around. Maybe not by you guys, but by, with the vote. We voted no Eastie and we won, and then they circumvented that. And then I'm hearing this letter that sounds like there's law breaking, and I hear that there's politicians being CC'd, and Martha Coakley, isn't she an attorney, like, that's supposed to work on our behalf? And so I keep hearing that all these people who we vote for, who represent us, just do whatever. I'm losing a lot of faith completely in the system when it comes to this casino thing, but yet I hear people in the audience who are on top of it, who really care. And I'm hearing now from you guys, I'm starting to get inklings that some of you guys really, truly, or maybe all of you, but I haven't heard from all of you, do care about what's going to happen. So, I mean, I guess I'm asking, definitely keep fighting for this community. In the last month, my son and I were going to go up to Tutti Frutti one day. We found February vacation. We found out it's closed. Then we went by Hot Diggity, closed. Okay, there's probably reasons why Hot Diggity closed. Amanda Oakleaf is gone. And now the Hallmark shop just closed. So I've always been into, since I moved to Winthrop, I've been here now 3 years, like supporting my local businesses and had a lot of pride in it. In the last few weeks, I've seen 4 of my favorite businesses. Amanda Oakleaf was, a few months ago, whatever. I just discovered that all my favorite little haunts with my child are gone. And so if all the businesses are closing that fast, what are we going to do to build up our local businesses? I don't think this casino is going to help. My vision of this darling little community with specialty shops, some beds and breakfast, maybe you guys could have bike rentals and kayak rentals all around the Bella Isle seafood area. I mean, this could be the cutest little town. People could come over on ferries, spend the night, shop, ride bikes around, kayak, and love this place. But I don't see that vision when I think of the casino and the traffic. And we've already gone on ad nauseum about all the problems with it. I guess I want to say thank you because I see a little bit of an inkling of hope. And then I want to say, please give me some hope. Do something to give me some hope in my elected officials and in the judicial process and the law. I want to believe in all this stuff. I kind of am jaded at this point. I'm like, we'll all go and speak about how much we care and love this community and love each other. And in the end, it's just, I've been a victim of eminent domain when I was a kid in my neighborhood in Fort Myers. So I've been going to these kind of meetings my whole life, and I see the writing on the wall, but for once, I actually want to have hope and see a positive outcome from this kind of stuff.
Thank you very much for your input. You're not going to read that whole thing.
I'm going to filibuster until you close this damn thing.
For the record, John, your name?
For the record, my name is John Ribeiro. I'm from Precinct 1. Obviously, this goes back several years for me. I really hoped that if the casino ever did come, that I would have been proven wrong, and that people would go by and say, you know what, John, look, the casino's doing well, everyone's got jobs, the shops are flourishing, and you were wrong. I really had hoped that if that had happened, that I would be wrong, because I grew up here and I want the best for East Boston, Revere, Winthrop, Chelsea, the whole area. Unfortunately, we're learning the hard way that the casino developers hold all the cards. and they're going to do what they want, when they want, and no one is going to stop them. The Gaming Commission, in the 2 years of their existence, haven't protected a single community. They let the East Boston vote go through. They did similar thing to the folks in Plainville. Springfield is facing a situation where they don't even have an agreement that says how much the people are going to get or how much they're going to spend there. And all of this goes on, and no one stands up for the little guy. And that's us, and that's Winthrop, and that's where we are right now. Recently, the Boston Business Journal even pointed out that the Gaming Commission isn't even following their own rules in terms of spending. They think that they are casino moguls flying around the world being feted by all of these casino developers. What shot do we have to have them hear us and stand up for us? We don't have any. Last year, there was a subcommittee that was put together by the town council. I don't think we had any findings that came out of that was publicized that let us know what you folks found out would be the impacts to our community here, even though there was a committee that went on. I think those should be published now. In light of what, you're trying to, maintain the high road in the negotiations, I think that's admirable and honorable, but at the same time, you've got to let us know what you found out, your expertise, the chiefs came together and found and studied this, and we should know what the impacts are going to be on our community. Now, regarding traffic, March 19th, 2010, East Boston Times cited the study that was done by John Vitagliano on the behest of Senator Petroselli. Also, the Spectrum Gaming report that was commissioned by the governor cited that same study, the traffic study of the Route 1A and Route 60 corridor, that said that before you add a casino, you need to do $500 million of improvements to handle the traffic that's there now, not to mention adding the casino traffic. So anything that they're talking about in terms of not having a flyover or we're not going to be impacted by a casino, when Dunkin' Donuts gets busy, it's difficult to get out of this town. We know what's going to happen when they put a casino at both of our exits and entrances. Next week, we've talked about this, March 25th. There's a meeting, it's a host surrounding community meeting, going to be held at the Boston Convention Center at South Boston. The hours are from 4 to 6. They will continue on as long as there are speakers that want to speak. People should sign up at the Gaming Commission website and ask to speak and support the town and speak out and tell the same stories you're telling here and get all your friends and neighbors because it matters. They ignored 4,000 plus votes in East Boston, and the next week they said, well, there's nobody here to oppose it. We need to show up at this meeting. Also, you folks know that I'm the chairman of the committee to repeal the casino deal. We're facing a legal battle with the SJC. The Attorney General has decided to put a barrier in front of the people and said that despite the fact that 4 years ago I allowed you to go forward and make dog racing illegal, I'm not going to allow you to do the same thing with casino gambling. Well, we're going to overturn her decision in a few weeks, and the town of Winthrop should write a letter in support of that effort. Doesn't matter whether you are supportive of gambling or opposed to gambling. What you should be supportive of is the people of Winthrop's right to vote on this. As other people have stated, there's probably not another community in the state that's going to be more impacted by a proposed casino than Winthrop. Every single person that comes in and out of Winthrop, whether it's to go to work or to go to a hospital to work, or God forbid, in an ambulance to get to one of those top-notch hospitals in Boston, is going to have to deal with that casino traffic. And yet you're sitting here today with a letter that violates all the spirit of the law and just of good faith. If this is how this process begins, how do you expect it's going to end? I have in my hand right now a study that was done by a nonpartisan group. It gives you 31 different reasons why casinos matter. I'd like to, hand it out to you folks. I think I have enough for everybody.
Okay, thank you for your input, John. If you just want to leave them, we'll just pass them down.
Very good.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public?
Actually,
Yes.
I already have one, actually.
Oh.
I talked to Senator Petroselli about it.
Good evening, Barry Kaplowitz, 97 Shore Drive. I think that's precinct 3 still.
Yeah.
I have one question. When a subcommittee held hearings about a year ago through the winter and spring, soliciting comments, testimony, whatever. Were the findings or the notes taken of those meetings compiled and handed to the lawyer and the town manager or the people who were negotiating?
They were all public record.
They're all public record.
And I believe you posted them all, didn't you?
Did the town manager ever look at them?
And everyone was emailed to every person.
Right, I remember receiving an email. My question is, can the town manager and the lawyer at least tell us whether or not those notes are taken into consideration in developing their negotiations?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Here's a question for the town manager. Under what kind of pressure are we if we don't reach any agreement with Mohegan Sun LLC before the hearing next week?
We will not have reached we will not have done that. We will not have reached an agreement.
And we have to tell someone some elected official from the town, be at the casino hearing, to tell the Casino Gambling Commission that we haven't reached such an agreement.
I don't see why not. Yeah.
And is it a requirement for the licenses to go forward that a casino candidate reach an agreement?
If the casino and the surrounding community cannot reach an agreement, then arbitration rules, and the arbitration people are appointed by the commission.
By the commission.
And they look at the package and say, that's it. So it's an arbitration process if the negotiations don't work.
How long, just as an estimate, do you think that at some point after the public testimony next week, you will either reach an agreement or a complete impasse with?
I don't know. I can't predict that at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we
go.
Go
ahead.
I think
Council Boncour.
The deadline, I think, is April 29th. And after that date, they're going to either take our figure, our proposal, or the casino's proposal, and it's going to be one or the other. And there's not going to be any negotiation between that by the arbitrator. I wanted to take the floor earlier, and while I have it, you can tell us what you want to tell us to help fight in the negotiation, even though the only negotiators right now. Hold on. Okay, wait a minute. That's what I'm getting to. Under new business, I'm proposing that we invite Mohegan Sun and Suffolk Downs to a meeting here in Winthrop. Since they changed their proposal, they have not come to the Winthrop citizens. When it was Caesar's Palace, they came to the citizens, there was a meeting held, people could voice their opinions, tell them what they wanted. All of us are very upset about being snubbed in the negotiations right now. My suggestion is in between those two meetings, because I don't think you're going to get 100 people or 200 people from Winthrop to go there, and even if we get a bunch of people to go on the 25th, you're also going to have all the other surrounding communities there, 7 of them which already have made agreements, and Boston, which is on the verge of it, speaking in favor of this place because they've already made their agreements. So I think we need to get them here into Winthrop where we can cross-examine them, we can question them, not negotiate, but here with their new packages, pull out all the bad things for Winthrop on that new package, cross-examine them, have it recorded, then send that meeting and the comments of all the Winthrop citizens that we can get locally on an evening here in Winthrop to the Casino Commission, so that they see what all of the town of Winthrop wants and is concerned about, rather than just doing it.
That sounds like a great start. At what point will you start informing people like Heather Mangrum about that?
Well, tonight, half an hour? 10 minutes, as soon as we get to new business.
At what point will you start informing them that we need to prepare, not just for inviting the Mohegan Sun in, whether they come or not, but for preparing for dealing with the arbitrator?
You cannot.
No. We're not going to deal with the arbitrator. You're going to deal with the arbitrator. But we had no feel for how the comments that were made last winter were incorporated into a negotiating strategy.
We didn't either until this came out. These letters just came out this week. One came to us this week, the first one he read.
No, I'm saying that we did not have a feel for how the comments made about what we were concerned about in terms of the effects on Winthrop, we're going to be incorporated into a negotiation strategy.
Hold on. Let the gentleman finish. What were you saying?
And so once you pass the, whatever the Rubicon is, once you pass the Rubicon, then you're going to prepare for both inviting them in, but also ultimately for dealing with an arbitrator. When will we get to meet again with, say, the town manager and the negotiator that you've hired to really hammer home what we're concerned about? Because we have no idea whether those concerns really are at the forefront of your negotiating strategy.
That's my suggestion.
And even the chief doesn't really know what's going on for whatever reasons, policy reasons. And we want to make sure we get to see him reiterate what his concerns are.
You want to see who?
The chief.
Oh, the chief, okay.
The chief, yes. And the other judges. In other words, we want to see...
Councilor...
let me just finish. We not only want to have input into what your negotiating strategy is, Mr. Town Manager, we want to see their input into your...
We have their input. And
they've learned some things.
I let you talk. Now let me respond. We have their input that was made in public session. And at any time they or you want to give input, that's okay. But I cannot involve you in the negotiation.
I don't want to be in your negotiation.
That's
we
fine.
want to know. We want to know.
All right, we heard you.
Negotiators.
We heard you. We heard your concerns. Council Sanders. I'm sorry, Mr. McKenna.
Yes. Mr. Barry. Yeah. I'd like to address your question. If you're going to have a conversation, I'll wait. Okay. Okay. Very simply, we have taken all input that has heretofore been given to us, as well as departmental input in detail as to what we have measured to be the impacts that this development or its progeny, because let's remember, it's not just the four corners of this project that we're concerned about, it's what comes with it and everything else that gets built on 1A, McClellan, and beyond, that is also going to exacerbate these questions that have been raised. So we are getting input from traffic engineers, we're getting input from MAPC, our regional planning agency, and we are being very informed with respect to what impacts will be brought on Winthrop, and we are making that case in our negotiations. So we'll continue to take that input from anyone who wants to give it. We certainly appreciate, I do, the perspectives that have been shared tonight. I'm sure this council appreciates all your thoughts and comments, but none of that, is lost on us. We share those concerns, and we've been seeking out input from all of our departments as we go forward here. We want to tell you folks that we've been engaged in a process that we believed to be a fair play process, and we understood now tonight that it's not. And we want to share that information with you so you understand our challenges.
Right, but so the privacy which you have honorably maintained has worked to the advantage of Mohegan's Sun in terms of what Winthrop residents know, and to the disadvantage of Winthrop's negotiators. And at what point, what will be your strategy to turn that around?
We have put our confidence and our faith in the people that we have hired who are guiding us. Councilor Sanders.
And first of all, I want to thank the young lady from Springfield who has some relatives out there who are negotiating. This has been one of the most, I've been doing this for 9 years, prior to that in other capacities. This has been one of the most frustrating and grueling processes that I've ever had to go through for the town. It's been tough to keep quiet. It's been frustrating listening to the negotiations from Mr. McKenna, and listening to our town department heads, our chiefs, and some of the concerns that are happening here. We listened to each one of them. We had meetings, public meetings with you folks there a long time ago. We did incorporate those into the reports and into the minutes. We made sure that it was sent to Mr. McKenna through the proper channels and delivered to the casino folks, first Caesars and now Mohegan Sun. We did negotiate and have negotiated in good faith, and all of our concerns have been talked about. Not recognized, but at least discussed. The rules have changed, not by us, but by them. You now know how much we wanted from them for mitigation because it's public knowledge. We can't get into specifics, but it's there. You know what they offered us. It's an insult to this community. They are coming. How we deal with it is with input from our department heads, from our town manager, and from the council, and from the citizens, because ultimately we all have investments here, and we all want our town to flourish. It's going to be difficult, but we have maintained a steady course and doing our best. Frustrating that we've not been able to talk to you and discuss what the particulars are, and very frustrating for us. What they've offered us is insulting, and they have not even considered the impacts that we discussed, including traffic, as well as other concerns with people purchasing homes here, economic development with businesses that are closing, discretionary income, public safety, so on and so forth. All of those things we've discussed, all of those things we brought to the table, they haven't recognized it. And each one of us here, as well as you, are as frustrated as you are, and as frustrated as our department heads and our town manager is. Although we may not be able to discuss the particulars going forward, you know what they are now. It's up to you to rally. It's up to you to call your elected officials. You're discussing it with us now, and to talk to whoever you need to talk to, so that the commission will listen. In my opinion, that's what I'm kind of waiting to see where Boston ends up, because we're one of 10 communities. We're 3 of 10 communities who have not come to terms yet. And the reason we haven't come to terms is because they haven't even considered us as a player. And again, that's insulting, I think, to this council, speaking for myself, as well as the community. We will go forward. We will work hard for you. May not be able to get into particulars, but please know that we're working in your best interest, and for us too, because we are invested here. Thank you.
Just one second, let one at a time.
So I mean, I think what Councilor Sanford said makes a lot of sense. Just I'd add a couple of things, is that while we're urging you to contact, people and express your outrage, I think it's time for us to get off the fence as a council and express our outrage at being treated like this. I think they're counting on us riding the fence. I think that they're waiting to ride out the clock to get this done because they think they have all the cards. I think that they're counting on our apathy. Again, sorry, I'm new at this. I just started in January, but I think that, if we don't do anything, shame on us. I think that we need to not limit our options. I think what John said about, our potential governor holding up a referendum on a ballot for the people to have a say in gambling, if our only option is they're going to treat us like this, I don't want them in the damn place anyways, and the only way we can do that, our state representatives aren't going to listen to us. They're not going to help us. We need to do it ourselves. Would be to write a letter to the SJC and tell Martha Coakley to knock it off. We need to get a referendum because it's the only way to remove them from there. And if they're not going to even entertain anything, we need to get them out. And I know nobody has the stomach to do that as a council, but that's what we need to do. I think that, they think very little of us, and we're not showing them we have anything else, that we're going to just sit around, and if we don't do that, we're really castrating ourselves and not giving us all the options.
Councilor Del Vento.
Right, and for everybody, if you look at our calendar, we've actually been meeting. We meet with the negotiator every week, executive session, and it's been hours every meeting. So all the information that we've gathered, all our feelings, input, everything we've got has been relayed, and we relay it weekly. We've had a lot of input. We have a national law firm that's representing us, but they're working under our guidance. We're very in touch with it. So I want you to really feel confident that everything that we know, that everything that's been said, they know, and that's been done. We've even outside of the purview, because there is theoretically money available to hire consultants or whatever, which they don't want to give us. We've appropriated our own town money to hire a traffic consultant. So now you're going to see another motion for additional funds to hire a planning consultant, so that we're actually getting legitimate entities working on our behalf and not on theirs. And all that information is coming together every week. So don't worry about that.
At the point that you reach an impasse, and the next step is to go in front of an arbitrator, Town of Winthrop, Mohegan Sun, arbitrator. At that point, will what you are trying to negotiate for still have to be held in confidence, or will it be made available for instance, these 3 professional working mothers?
I don't have an answer to that.
I believe legally we will, once we reach an impasse and it goes to arbitration, we can publicly say what we asked for in arbitration, because we'll have our bottom line.
That's good.
And they'll have their top
I
line.
believe that too, but I would have to check it with council to make.
That's all. And at that point, I'm sure we'd like to meet with Mr. McKenna and your hired negotiator. You know, in either a public format or in a meeting where we can.
Okay, let's see when we get there.
Thank you.
Let me just, Richard?
I want actually to the chief had asked a long time ago about, we are pursuing what our legal options are in regards to the violation, just to let you know. We're not, that is something we're actively pursuing.
Thank you. Probably to Mr. McKenna, we understand what's going on in negotiations is not going to be public, and it's not going to be available for the public comment at the casino level. But will the experts that we have working on our behalf, the data and reports, will they be speaking on our behalf at the casino committee hearings, either the 25th or the 9th, I believe was stated?
Yes, there are a number of reviews going on. One is a request that we've put in under public record for a supplemental environmental impact review of the changes of this proposal. That's a matter of public record now. We have an expert engineer reviewing those details, and his report will be, in fact, part of that public record of comment on what our concerns are relative to the traffic proposals. So that's an example of what we're doing.
Council President.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Kell.
I would like to suggest that when we do have our public meeting with the Mohegan Sun, that we have our negotiators, the attorneys present, so that they can listen to the general public, and so that they can reiterate exactly what we've been saying to them right along. Is everything that you've all brought up tonight. We're really trying on our end.
Yeah, and what we heard tonight, and I don't mean to belittle, what we heard tonight is what we've heard, and we've heard it before, and it's in our hearts too. And I'm not trying to minimize the effect of it, but it's important that we hear it again, because the more times we hear it. But be assured that all of the concerns that were brought up tonight, we have had them on the table. We have presented them, and we have recently hired MAPC, as Mr. McKenna said, to be the independent interpreter of the impacts that aren't being recognized. Is there? Yes, Tony. Yep. For the record, you just name and precinct.
My name is Anthony Tony Evangelista, precinct 4, and I see the concerns of the man, kids are probably there, could be my daughters, grandchildren. I've been living in this town for 49 years. The only reason I know that is my wedding anniversary will be coming up on May 22nd. My wife has been an entrepreneur in this town at the age of 18. That goes back 55 years ago. If you look at the demographics of this town, and I'm sure Mr. Gill and several others know this if they've looked it up and studied it. This town goes back to be a beach community. It's not an industrial town. We're trying to be the best we can, and the concerns, and my concerns was professionally in medicine as a pharmacist and doing my best. My other thing, or my most important thing, is the family unit construction and maintaining that my affection was for the children and for their equality, for the equality of their education. Also to promote Winthrop, so that other people and young people like us sitting here, who are the minority, who's representing the majority of people, are not here tonight. And the people I have heard, there's only a very few that have said they want it. I haven't heard anyone else say they don't want it. The majority do not want it, but they're not here. These are my kids, my grandchildren. I have a son and daughter, Maria and Joseph, who attended the public Winthrop school system. It's the finest, it was the finest in the country at that time. Winthrop has gone down since I've been living here. There's people that have been moving out. We've gone down from a minimum of about 20,000 people down.
I take exception to that.
Excuse me?
I take exception to that. You have a town that's working very hard. We just passed, you almost overwhelmingly, a brand-new school system. This town is not going down. It's changing, but it's not going down. And I take exception to that.
I don't want to be interrupted. You can interrupt me after I've finished. We can always do better. We're not going to 100%, and there's too much fat in the top, and I want to finish off. Now,
I will not tolerate a public comment that says my town is going down. I will not tolerate that. I'll shut you off first.
Well, I have, it's public speech. It is.
Go ahead.
Second Amendment.
Go ahead, and go ahead.
I have the right to
You
voice
absolutely
my
do,
opinion.
and you have 2 minutes. Go.
All right. What I'm going to say right here is because these are the minority that are representing the majority, and I disagree with you, Mr. Gill, because I know what the truth is. There was a great man in American history, and truth is what he stood for. Most people are politically assassinated or they're shot. All of us have heard that we should learn to win the war and not the battle. I looked that up and found out where it came from. It came from a great president, the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And he stood for truth. And because he did that, he was assassinated. And this is what he stated. It isn't a quote, it's what he stated. Elections are a battle. Liberty is the law. We may lose the battle here and there, but we must never lose the war. Keep fighting for the good fight, and we're going to do that. And also, if this happens, people are not going to move into Winthrop, they're going to move out.
Thank
and
you,
I
Mr.
disagree with
Evangelist.
you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you. Any further comment? John?
John Ribeiro, Precinct 1. It was mentioned earlier about potentially bringing Mohegan Sun back and having a public meeting. That's really just a continuation of a diversionary tactic that's been ongoing with this whole process for the past several years. The only way for us to make an impact on this is not to continue conversations with Mohegan Sun, but to continue to start discussions and voice our opposition with the Gaming Commission. That starts now and through the 25th and beyond, because it's not only the 25th where people can show up and should show up in force to voice their opposition, but they can also make comments by email, and they do read those emails and they do consider those emails. And again, not to belabor the point, and I'll get off the stand after this, but there's also the repeal. So these two, the repeal effort, to put forward the repeal. And this is where all of our, you folks, I believe you that you're taking all the data and presenting it, but it's brought us to this point where we've been shunned aside. And so now, we have to take the fight to them, okay? And that's where we have all been for a long time, and we welcome you in this fight. Thank you.
If there's no further comment, I will close public. Yes, Greg.
So, first of all, I want to say one thing to Tony. When your wife finds out that you just told everyone, when your wife finds out that you just told everyone how old she was, nothing you said here is going to matter. So, to answer a question for Barry, you asked a question, I don't know if we answered it correctly. I don't know that our representatives will be speaking on the 25th at that hearing. So I think you asked that question, and I can't tell you that that they are planning on being there. I don't know if they are.
I don't know that.
But I don't think we can answer.
So that's in front of the gaming commission?
Correct, correct.
And that's the meeting about Winthrop?
That is a meeting about surrounding communities.
Surrounding communities.
Yeah, but
So we're a surrounding community, we are a surrounding community, and when you say our representatives, does that mean our town manager, one of you as council?
well, let me, you asked the question, will our people be there? That, I'm answering that question. I do not believe they are. I will tell you that Peter has mentioned that he will be there. Rich has mentioned that he will be there. I will also be there at that time. Anybody else, I do not have any knowledge if they will. But I do want to say something. I'm going to disagree with the chief for a second, because he started out by saying that he was upset that they broke the confidentiality. I am ecstatic that they broke the confidentiality, and I'll tell you why. It shows that we are not dealing with people that we can trust. If the rule says do this and you decide you can take it into your own hands, those are the people that we are entrusting our life with. I personally am not sure that that's what this is. Many years ago, I started my own business. It was a food business in the financial district. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, a couple of gentlemen walked in, became regular customers. I got to know them, and I said, what do you do? They said, we work for the IRS. And I said, are you here for any reason? They said, for lunch. And I said, any advice? And they said, pay your 941 taxes on time. The other guy said, rob a bank and pay them on time. And I said, how come? He says, because they're not a tax, they're a trust. And I thought about that. The 941 was my element of the payroll tax that I was taking from my employee and contributing to, and they said to me, rob a bank, because that would be less of a crime than not paying the bill. And I filed incorrectly one time, and I found out that they were correct. But the real learning experience from that, to me, was the trust. We are giving these people a right to print money based on a trust that they will do the right thing. To date, they have proven that they have no intention of doing the right thing. They found a way to get a loophole in East Boston and exploited it. They found a way to craft a bill that somehow felt that people living in an affected town would only be an affection up until their borders. Crime and everything that goes along with a casino will stop at the causeway and stop at the bridge, according to the crafters of the bill.
Who wrote the bill?
Let me finish. I think there are 3 approaches, and this is my strategy. I have voiced it many times. Whoever is willing to follow me, I am ready to take the next step. I believe that we have to go to the casino committee and voice our displeasure with the fact that we have been overlooked in this entire process. And whether or not they want to have any credibility means they will have to listen to us. Mohegan Sun is only interested in one thing, and that is their license. So we don't have to worry, in my mind, about negotiating with them. We have to make sure they know that we are out to stop them. And that means that every individual in this town that cares has to take that responsibility. There are 2 other elements that are very important, and they are the fact that this law was enacted by the Massachusetts Senate and House of Representatives, and we have 1 representative on each. And those representatives have to know that our inability to negotiate with this group, and you all know that they turned down our $5 million offer and didn't counter offer. They turned it down. They said, we don't even want to talk to you. The law gives them that right. And if you can't stop the casino, then there's 2 other avenues we have. And they come up in November of this year. And we finally have to realize that in this town for the last 30 years, we have had a governor of this state, we have had a Senate president, and a Speaker of the House. And our gift, an airport, a treatment plant, and a casino. And I'm not sure that that's what the citizens of the town have expected. If it is, then we will sit quietly and take what we get. If it's not, we will make a vocal approach to these three individuals, the Gaming Commission and both of our representatives, so they know that this isn't working for us anymore, and we deserve something a little better. Oh, can I just say one more thing?
Yep.
If you don't think we get slapped in the face, we got a letter from the airport last week, okay, addressing some of the issues. They have a health study that was peer-reviewed, but they're having their own peers. It's good to know a couple of boys and girls at Massport are scientifically aware and being able to do that. They refuse to do that. And while they sent that letter last week, they did not even notify the Airport Hazards Committee, to my knowledge, that they were coming to Concon last week to ask to move a runway 200 feet closer to the town.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, we're going to take one more comment, then we've been on public comment long enough. No.
Craig,
Councilor,
under our representative and our senator, don't forget that we're also getting the solid waste to add to that, so.
Correct. Thank you. Public comment.
Is what he was saying. What has happened in this town, too, we have the greatest scarcity in Massachusetts. I've done some investigation. Moving into the airport and that tunnel, it's like smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
All right.
We're going to move on from public comment. Thank you. Public comment is closed. We're moving on to correspondence. I did have a correspondence from Mr. Hubbard with his concerns about the traffic for the Deer Island transportation of the sludge, and he was fine with me just commenting that I didn't need to read it. And Judy, instead of reading yours, would you just comment on your affair that's coming up?
I started a nonprofit in memory of my husband. We're working on a big fundraiser for the end of April, so April 26th. Uplift yourself with laughter. After tonight, we all need laughter. Laughter's the best medicine. And it will be at Casa Lucia, buffet dinner, comedy, raffles, 50-50, DJ, and we are also putting together a program book. We are looking for sponsors and advertisers for the program book. So if anybody would like to do that, please contact me or any of the board members. I have a board. My number is 617-462-5719, and I can give you more information or email you the form.
Thank you, Judy. All right, moving on to committee reports. Council Vice President Del Vento.
Finance Committee report of last night. We had a meeting, Councilors Lettieri, myself, and Sanford. President, the items on the agenda were a $75,000 transfer from Fund 584 cemetery sales of land and graves for improvements, and there was a $2,500 item that's going to be here tonight on the planning board to transfer to the Conservation Commission. We moved forward with positive recommendation on $75,000 transfer, of which we had a hearing tonight, and the $2,500 planning board transfer was just referred to bring up to the full council.
Okay, and on the other four items, those are left over from last time. They came out with no report.
Those came out with no, from last report. If we need, I can pull that up during discussion.
Worthy? Yes, President. The Rules and Ordinance Committee will meet on Monday, the 24th at 7 PM. If you could get us a room, please. And post that on the inspection service reorganization.
Thank you. Councilor Mail on the Public Works.
Meeting of the DPW committee was held in the Harvey Room Wednesday, March 5th, 7/11. Attending was Town Manager Jim McKenna, Council President Gill, Councilor Sanford representing Economic Development, Councilor Cowler, and the committee members, Vice President Del Vento, Councilor Barone, and myself. Also present was DPW Director Stephen Cowler and a citizen, Jack Dowd. Meeting began with a discussion of the proposed offering of town lots for overnight parking and associated fee. The topic ranged a discussion of items such as how they'd be offered. People spoke in favor of it, and people spoke against it, and the vote of the committee was 1 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 no decision, so the subject was placed on hold. There was a brief discussion on raising the parking sticker fee. There are currently about 5,000 stickers sold, and there are 1,200 stickers given to seniors for no charge. There was no action taken. DPW Cowler, and I'll speak for him because I don't think he's here, spoke on the upcoming pothole repair and said that that's going to start. If you do have, major potholes, please send them. If you can email them and with a picture, that's good. There's currently about $85,000 left in Chapter 14 money for this project, so we have a little left. Conversation was about sidewalk repairs. There's $35,000 in the budget. There's about 300 open requests for sidewalk repairs in town. We handle about 60 every year. Steve mentioned that it'd be about $15 million to do every one. And to tell you how concerned he is, he likes that he's doing the 3,500, the 35,000 every year, but he's concerned that we don't get to match the colors. I'd like to assure him, I think most people are happy when their sidewalks get fixed.
Hold on 1 second, Tom. We asked that the conversation in the back cease so that we can concentrate on the meeting, please. Go ahead, Tom.
So, the list, what they're going to try and do this year is put out a list so you know if you're in. There's about 300 open requests. They're coming in all the time. Sometime you may be closer to the top, but then some bad ones come in, so that's how they get handled. Total cost for snow removal this year is running about $200,000. We budgeted 80, leaving us a deficit of 120. It was discussed whether we should pay this before or after the recap. There was also a discussion held on Chapter 90 projects. Currently, there are 2 major projects awaiting work. Cottage Hill is one, Plummer Francis Street is another. Plummer Francis Street, we heard about earlier today. They do have an exposed water pipe down there. There's money for these in certain ways. The cost is about $2.8 million. We have to continue the discussion on that. And also, there is a Point Shirley project that is going on right now. That is being held up a little bit in FEMA right now, so that project may get pushed forward. Some of the money that's available may come back and help us mitigate the cost of the Cottage Plummer Street. One of the issues that we have is we have these projects that need to get done, and it's a matter of fitting them all into the boxes. And even though it's not part of this, the budget discussions that happen around these at the DPW meeting and in the upcoming budget meetings are very enlightening, and it also gives you a real chance to be heard and a real chance, if you have a thought on the school budget and you're not there tomorrow and you're not there when the Finance Commission meets, you don't really get a chance to see what goes into it, and I encourage anybody who wants to. The meeting was finally adjourned at 9 o'clock, and that was it for us.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Boyajin.
A quick update on the committee-to-committee report. The meeting was held last night, March 17, 2014. Meeting started at 6 p.m. and the single discussion was in regards to the performance evaluation of the town clerk by the town manager. The town manager shared with us his notes from a review we conducted with the town clerk. We're happy to report that the evaluation went well. As with all of us, there are areas of improvement opportunity. However, the town manager pointed out and was very pleased with the way Carla has stepped up regarding the office relocation, as well as being a team player when she volunteered to assume the responsibilities as town burial agent in the absence of the health director.
Thank you. Moving on to the town manager's report, Mr. McKenna.
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, just wanted to give you an update of a couple of matters. I met with the Board of Health this week, and we continue to discuss operational concerns, and we're working collaboratively to iron out those issues, develop a clear path forward on a number of fronts, make sure that the board is up to speed in what its needs are, and get support for some of the adjustments in staffing and addressing the ongoing concerns that we share in terms of making sure that we're compliant with all our health responsibilities. Which leads me to the fact that today we did do an enforcement action at the Atlantis Marina. We did encounter a situation where we identified effluent coming out of vessels, and we took the responsibility of calling the Massachusetts State Environmental Police down to the site, and I believe citations were issued, and there'll be more forthcoming in terms of how we rectify that situation. The building commissioner process is still developing. I'm having interviews tomorrow, and hopefully I will have news on that front within the next week to 10 days in terms of a candidate for recommendation. And we did receive a letter from our Congresswoman Clark regarding FEMA news that, and I've given you so you can read it yourselves, a lengthy summary of the legislation passed in Congress, waiting now for the President's signature, that offers some levels of relief. It's not, certainly the issue's not over. We will still have to pursue an appeal to get, Winthrop's particular issues addressed in an appeal process. But however, some other issues are addressed that offer some levels of relief for, the FEMA issue as we've discussed it in the past. And I'll put that response on our website so that the public can have a copy of that. And it's costing us a fortune to keep up with utility bills, and that's been said tonight, and we just wanted to reiterate that that's really a budget challenge right now for us. I have asked the council to consider tonight an emergency appropriation of $10,000 from free cash for supplemental towards the hiring of MAPC to do the analysis we need them to do within a very short time frame on the impacts of the proposed MSM casino.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
You're welcome.
Moving on to old business. Vice President Del Vento.
The first one I'm going to have is one that came out of committee. I just had it in front of me. I'll have to look it up. The $75,000 transfer for the cemetery funds. The motion coming from committee is I move that the town council transfer $75,000 from Fund 584 cemetery sale of land, sale of lots and graves for the purpose of resurfacing and repairing the town cemeteries, or take any other action relative thereto.
Coming out of committee, there's no need for a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item under old business is the reorganization, which we're going to hold till the next meeting when it comes back from rules and ordinances with a recommendation. The next was the transfer of, from the town manager, to move the following amounts be appropriated for the purposes of paying a legal judgment rendered against the town in accordance with the final schedule of indenture as proposed by our town attorneys. From Fund 5, you want to read that one out?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
I move that the following amounts be appropriated for the purpose of paying the balances of legal judgment rendered against the town in accordance with the final schedule of indenture as proposed by our town attorneys. Fund 582, $3,343.81 special revenue legal fund. Fund 674, $58,917.92 special revenue council reserve fund. Fund 710, $7,738.27 special revenue workers' compensation. Fund 932, $180,000 special revenue stabilization fund, or take any other action relative thereto.
Motion by Council Vice President Del Vento. Is there a second? Is there a second?
It didn't come from the committee.
Yes, but it came from committee with no recommendation. So we need a second. Second by Councilor Varone. Any discussion on them? It came out with no recommendation.
I understand that, but it also seems a lot higher than what we thought it was going to be.
Right, but they suggested that we appropriate that and then we don't necessarily spend it all.
Not to exceed.
Based upon what we heard last night. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yes.
That reimbursement from the insurance company is going to come later.
Right.
Left off.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
8-1. Under new business, Councilor Del Vento.
Move that the town council transfer $10,000 from town council reserve account 0111-052-576100 to town manager contract services 0111-252-544-350 for the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission to study the impacts of the proposed Mohegan Sun Casino project, Suffolk Downs, to take any other action relative thereto.
Because this motion came in after the deadline, I would ask for motion to suspend rules 2C. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilor Sanford, second by Councilor Del Vento. Sorry, Councilor Boncory, it's getting late. Any discussion on the motion to transfer $10,000, and that's for the, I'm sorry, motion to waive the rules has been made and seconded. All those in favor of waiving Rule 2C, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. To the main motion to transfer $10,000 as read by Councilor Del Vento. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Councilor Del Vento.
Oh, let's take this on. Give a copy to my board. I get the wrong agenda. Move that the town council should transfer $2,500 from planning board personnel account 0117551511100 to the Conservation Commission special revenue account 6915511000 for the purpose of funding administrative costs. I'll take any other action relative thereto.
Coming from committee. No need. I thought you did the committee.
We just referred it over.
Oh, okay. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilor Callan. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Is there any other new business?
Yes, I actually would like to make a motion. Again, I'm new at this, so please correct me if you need to. I move that the town council draft a letter of support and sent to the Superior Court, Judicial Court in support of the statewide referendum to repeal casino gambling. In support that, in support of this, be allowed to go to a statewide ballot, which is going to be heard soon on the Superior Judicial Court. Martha Coakley is to appeal that.
Okay, Councilor Boyajian has made a motion that the council write a letter to the Supreme Court.
Supreme Judicial Court for pending upcoming litigation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Mayo. Discussion.
Question. Will this adversely affect the negotiation?
I don't know.
I guess my opinion would be, I don't know how it could hurt any worse than it is, and I think that they know that we don't want to, that we'd rather have them not have gambling licenses at all if they're going to do that. I don't see how that would hurt in supporting that. We don't feel like they're negotiating in good faith. And I think by not doing it, we're handcuffing one of the options we have.
I'd like to hear from legal counsel on that first, so I would exercise my option to put this off until the next
Okay,
meeting.
we will refer it to our negotiating people.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Counsel?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we invite the people from Mohegan Sun and Suffolk Sterling Raceway to a meeting of April 1st and have an open meeting at 7 p.m. for them to show us their new plan and to televise this and invite our citizens to come to question them and let their feelings be known, and that after that meeting, we send a copy of the tape of that meeting to the Casino Commission.
Okay, so we have a motion, and I would ask you if you would include in that motion that they would be here to discuss their proposal.
And not negotiation, yes, not negotiations.
Okay.
And that meeting be held in a venue large enough to hold the attendance, the coming.
Would you suggest the coming school on April 1st at our next meeting? Would that be good? Okay, so we put all that motion together that we're inviting the Mohegan Sun and Suffolk Downs to come and make a presentation in a public session to discuss their proposal to develop.
And that we advertise that session to the town of Winthrop's residents.
And that we advertise it in the local paper?
In the local paper, correct.
Is there a second?
Well, I'd like to include our legal counsel to be present at that as
Oh,
well.
we just tell them. We just tell them.
We can invite them if we want, we're just setting up the
And
package.
make sure that they're there.
I'll second.
And we will also draw the agenda for it. You know, the agenda, we'll have approval before it goes. Seconded by Councilor Del Vento.
I'm a second, and I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion that their presentation be no longer than 15 minutes. I don't want them hijacking our time.
Could I say that instead of no longer than 15 minutes, we will determine, in other words, after we meet with Bruce and set this up, that...
Okay, I mean, I'll go along with reasonable, but I really don't want them doing a dog and pony show.
Oh, no.
Good stuff.
Do you want to do 15 minutes and then we can extend that? Or do we want to just say that it'd be a reasonable amount of time?
Reasonable amount of time, 15 minutes. We're going to request
I want to see it all.
at first that what they're presenting is going to be requested to us.
Right.
With the agenda on the Thursday, so
Right.
we'll get to see it and time it and know how long it's going to be.
And then I believe that night we could say you're limited to...
20 minutes, 15.
Is that okay with everybody?
No, that's not fair to them to have them send us a presentation and we tell them we're going to limit them. We should set it up front saying...
I'm not sure I want to be fair to them, I'm sorry.
No, but I mean, it would be better to tell them they have 15 minutes, give us all the crap you can in 15 minutes instead of having them do the dog and pony show that
All right, we have a motion on the table to have the meeting. And we have an amendment to the motion that we limit it to 15 minutes. So we have a second to that amendment?
I'll second that.
The amendment has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the
Yes.
amendment?
When are we concerning?
Yeah, Council President, if we limit them to their presentation, which I think should be reasonable, but I don't want them just to give us all the good stuff. I want to see the whole thing. Doesn't everybody want to see what they have to say entirely? I mean, to see...
Respectfully, they've never given us negative.
Time out, through the chair. Linda, Russ, you were up.
Council Cal.
I'd like to see what the presentation's going to be. Start limiting them, then we're only going to see what they want us to see. Do you know what I'm saying?
Russ, hold on, council discussion. Russ?
I would put it maybe a 30-minute, not to exceed, and you can decide at that point whether you want to extend it or whether that should be it. I think it should be discretion of the council president, not to exceed 30 minutes.
Respectfully, I would be shocked and probably drop dead of a heart attack if they actually presented anything other than, as, to quote Bruce, unicorns and show ponies, because they're not going to give us anything other than what they've disclosed publicly in our letter, that there's no impact on Winthrop at all. They're not going to tell us that we're not going to get anything other than their best case scenario. So I don't see why we have to be subjected to 30 minutes of BS versus 50.
On the amendment to limit it to 15 minutes, is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
Councilor Mayo.
The only thing about limiting them is now they come back and they say, well, we didn't get a chance to talk to you because you cut it back. So, you know, my feeling is they come in, they make their stuff, and look, this is the responsibility of the people in town.
That's right.
If the people in town show up and make their life hell after their presentation, then they'll get the point across and they'll wish they had only taken 5 minutes.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment, Councilor?
Same way, the more they talk about, the more little things you can pick out, and someone might see something different than someone else as they're talking, and that's what I'd like people to do, so that we have an opportunity to hit them at each part of their presentation, and for the council to have the opportunity to cross-examine them on something.
On the amendment, any further discussion?
Just
Councilor?
that this is a very big decision here with this casino, and I think we need to know as much about it as we can. And I don't think we should be putting a limit on it
Any
unless
Sorry.
it gets redundant or it's just not new information.
And I believe that if they go overboard, then I'm in control of the meeting.
Right.
So, Councilor Sanford?
And I kind of agree with Craig down the end. The fact is, if we end up going to arbitration, and they argue the fact that we didn't give enough time to make a proper presentation, it could come back to hurt us. I think it should be at the discretion of the council president.
On the amendment, to limit them to 15 minutes. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of limiting them to 15 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
So they will not be limited to 15 minutes. Do we want to put anything in the language that they will be limited to a reasonable amount of time?
You're chairing it, you can stop.
Mr. President, I'll move that we amend the motion to limit it to at the discretion of the council president.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded that it be limited to at the discretion of the council president. All those in favor of that amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. The motion now stands as amended, that they will make a presentation on April 1st at the regular council meeting. The length of the presentation will be at the discretion of the council president.
It'll be 7 p.m. in the Cummings.
7 p.m. in the Cummings School. Right. It'll be a presentation on our agenda. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Council President,
Council.
can we also put up our boards,
Yeah.
to advertise that?
I don't know how to get a hold of the DPW.
Just to let the general public
Yes.
coming in and out know about it.
It's Linda's son that's in charge of putting them out. Any further new business? If not, just a couple of things, reminders that are upcoming. I think we all know that on the 26th there's an MWRE meeting at 4 o'clock at the convention center. Tonight.
No, that's the casino on the 25th.
I'm sorry, it's late. It's been a long night.
Is that at the Seaport?
25th.
That's at the Seaport.
At the convention center is the casino. Okay, Mass Gaming Commission.
26 is MWRA.
I got this right in front of me.
Okay.
It's late.
Yeah.
All right, starting with tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is the school committee budget hearing. The Mohegan Sun public meeting with the council that we just voted is on 4/1. That's 2 weeks from tonight. On 3/21, MWRA is having a citizens meeting.
No.
26th.
26th. On the 21st, there's a citizens meeting that they were handing out these flyers about.
Correct.
That's the other one. And we know that the Mass Gaming Commission is the 25th. On the Convention Center on Tuesday the 25th, 4 o'clock. Is there any further public comment?
Just two quick things. One, I have some more information on FEMA that I've got. I'll put it on my website tomorrow or the next day. And at the next meeting, I will make a motion for a discussion on a great opportunity for seniors in this town. There are 1,200 stickers that the town gives out for people over 60. At $5 a piece, that would be 6,000. I will make a motion for a discussion at the next meeting that seniors be allowed to pay that $5 with the money going to programming at the senior center here. So give them a chance to take some money that they're, you know, if they'd like to, and a voluntary thing, and we could use the money for programming, so.
Thank you. So that'll be, and at the next meeting, a motion and a discussion. Is there any further public comment? Under public comment, I would like to thank all of you for coming here with your passion tonight and listening to us and understanding that we're doing the best we can, and we are continuing our efforts, and we urge you to continue yours, continue your passion, and get some more people involved, and be there at the convention center. If there's no further business, do I hear a motion? Motion by Vice President Del Bento, seconded by me, seconded by Councilor Boyajian. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.